Gordon, you ready? I'm going to call it to order now. So we're going to go out of order this evening. And I do thank Chairman Viola for indulging the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules just to take care of a quick matter. But as we are in the chamber, I'd ask that everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules are Councilor Toro, Councilor Mercer-Bruin, Councilor Frullo, Councilor DeMambro, and myself, Councilor Demers, acting as chair. First matter on the agenda is a reading of the previous meeting's minutes and approval. Is there a motion to
waive
do
the
so?
reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Our next matter on the agenda is a zoning amendment regarding outdoor dining for fast food classification that I had filed, and I do see Solicitor Salvati here this evening. Solicitor Salvati and I met today to go over the language in the ordinance. He is here available for questions, but I just wanted to go out. I had passed out a one-pager explaining the process, so is there a motion to make that part of the permanent record?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so as you can see, this outlines the procedures that we would have to, a fast food restaurant would have to follow through to come before us to request either a major or minor modification to the site plan with a public hearing. It also takes into effect two previous special permits that this council approved with Press Cafe and Starbucks, both in Woburn Landing, where they had conditions in their special permit that they would be granted outdoor seating upon the city council amending the outdoor dining zoning law. Also, any other fast food restaurants would be required to file a special permit to seek approval for outdoor dining if they don't fall under a previous special permit or the two locations as prefaced in bullet number 2. So I'll be willing to take any questions. I asked Solicitor Salvati to be present this evening to answer any questions that folks might have with the process, but I'll open it up. Councilor Mercer-Bruin.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the work on this. Outdoor seating is very, very popular, so we might have been a little behind the curve on it, and you stepped it up, so thank you. My only concern, and I know we talked about this briefly, I see the mention of Press Cafe and Starbucks in here, but for the Woburn Mall, I just want to make sure that it's very clear that a place like the mall, the 40R, would have some special regulations, mostly because I'm concerned about the parking down there, right? So can you just clarify for me?
Sure. Yeah, the process.
How that would work.
So the process, if they were to come to us without a already designated or already constructed area that could be used for outdoor dining, that would probably fall under the major modification, which would require them to pull a special permit.
Which requires them to be here.
Correct. They would have to come before us, and we can go through it, and under the special permit laws that we have, and the procedures under, the special permit, we could determine that it's not a safe use. We could also cite other areas in the zoning law that it doesn't satisfy our concerns on as well.
Okay, but they still have to stop here.
That's
all I needed to
Anytime they
know.
wanted it, they would have to come here. The only two that would, have an easier go of it would be Press Cafe or Starbucks, but we've already reviewed those plans. They've already had designated areas for the outdoor
Right.
dining,
Yep.
which were pre-existing patios. So they would still have to follow all building code and safety rules, so Commissioner Quinn would have to do a site visit to ensure that any and all use outdoor would be safe and determined feasible. The other item would be that any restaurant that would be looking to sell alcohol outside would also have to go through the License Commission for approval for outdoor sale of alcohol.
Right. Nicely done.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to open this up to non-voting members.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other members of the council that would like to speak on this matter? President Dillon?
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to you and Councilor Mercer-Bruin. Anything we can do to help businesses, restaurants, they're a partnership with us here. And this is a great idea, and I'm sure that with the work with Commissioner Quinn and the work that you both did on this will end up as a very positive thing. So just thank you for your efforts.
Chairman Viola?
Thank you. I'd like to echo the comments as well from President Dillon. I think it's a great job. It's a great economic stimulus thing for the city as well, through the taxes that we will be getting from these restaurants. And I think you'll be seeing more people when the weather gets nicer that would utilize outdoor dining. So thank you very much.
Any other members of the council? What is the will of the committee?
I'll make a motion that the zoning amendment be adopted.
Second.
So the motion made that the zoning ordinance be sent out ought to pass and
Ought to
seconded.
pass.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, I'm going to call the Committee on Finance to order. It's meeting as a committee of the whole. Chairman Viola. First item on the agenda is the reading approval of minutes from meeting of May 12th, 2025.
Make a motion that we dispense with the reading and approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second item on the agenda is discussion of the FY 2026 budget. First up is Mr. Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sorry about that. Thank you for your time this evening. Tonight, we begin a series of discussions with the various departments within the city based on their budget. I'm joined tonight by Auditor Doherty, and we've got the representatives from Veterans, Planning, and Schools. So as you saw in the letter I sent down a week and a half ago, the theme for this year's budget is a maintenance year. I won't read the letter to you again, but I think you'll hear that through many of the departments in their comments tonight and the next couple of nights. Similar within my office. You've got the salaries there, some increases as a result of the contractual and ordinance implications. You'll note Mackenzie Dezik's position, again, fully funded by the opioid fund. We're carrying an item under salary adjustments. There's one union contract outstanding, as you know. We hope to wrap that up this year. There's an item for that. A couple of minor adjustments in some of the maintenance categories, adjusting for inflation, increased costs that we're all dealing with in terms of office supplies, et cetera. You'll note that there's an item every other year. We fund the city's inaugural with a $2,000 amount. And then on the next page, we've got the community services items. There's one item of note. We actually did reduce a number for New Path after discussions between my office and their operation. We feel that they can absorb this reduction, and I do believe that is the extent of the mayor's office presentation. Again, I'm joined by Auditor Doherty. If you have any other questions, but with that, I would turn it back to the committee.
Anybody on the committee have questions? Councilor Demers.
Mr. Mayor, could you enlighten us a little bit on what the consultant line item usually covers in terms of what types of consultants we're...
Yeah, so between planning, engineering, and my office, there was a need for a series of analyses and consulting studies that occur throughout the year: complete streets, housing production plan, the master zoning plan, things like that. We do try to seek grant funding to offset much of that, and we've been successful as of late, but that's just for those types of issues. We also have the efficiency consulting study going on that's funded, and there may be some follow-on work done as a result of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercer-Bruin.
Just a follow-up question, Mayor. Some of those analysis that you mentioned, I know the city has already embarked on those. Would it be too much trouble to send down maybe 2 of those plans, what they cost and how we use the funds?
The ones that are completed, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right now, the housing production plan and the downtown master plan and the North Woburn master plan are just underway, so there's no results as yet. The Collins Center facilities efficiency study, we're expecting some answers on that in the next couple of weeks. So as soon as I get that, I'll share that with this committee.
Thank you.
Councilor Papalato?
Thank you. Just a quick question on the substance misuse prevention.
Yes,
I see there's an offset in there. Is that ongoing offset, or is that,
Yes.
does that run out at some point?
that, there's a settlement, in the National Opioid Settlement, that funds this position. It will run out at some point, but several years from now. There's enough money in that fund to offset this position and the necessary resources to implement it for several years to come.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor
Just a
Demers?
quick follow-up to that effect. Mr. Mayor, would it be possible if the auditor's office could provide us with a financial sheet on that, the opioid fund that we set up separately?
Yes.
Also, and forgive me if I'm mistaken, have we had Mackenzie come before liaison to discuss the things that she's been doing in the community? And
I don't think you have, but I think she's eager to do
yeah,
that.
I think through the chair to President Dillon, maybe that would be a prudent thing to do, to have Mackenzie come in before us at liaison, just to give us an update and
I second
let
that.
us know. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have any comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where?
Next item on the agenda is Veterans Affairs. That's on page 51 in our books. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening, Chair Viola, President Dillon, City Council members.
Hello.
Good evening. So, as far as Department of Veteran Services for this year, for fiscal '26, we're going to go ahead and level set both the maintenance and the Veterans Agent budget as well. I think we're in pretty good shape across the board. The only thing we've increased over the past couple of years has been flags. Flags continue to, the cost of flags continue to go up, but I think we're good there, as I spoke to the mayor about as well, and thank you again for your support, Mayor. I think we're good on the flags because that's reimbursed by the state through the Chapter 115 program, so I think we're good there. I can use the rest of the budget. If I need anything coming out, I can go ahead and fund those flags. It's really the only big-ticket item each year that goes up and up. So other than that, I think our budget's fine. For the upcoming year, the cash aid, I think, is right on. You know, some months we average around 20K. I'd say the rough average throughout the year is right around 20,000. Some months 17, a little more here and there, but that 250 fund for the cash aid looks pretty right on to me as well. So I think we're good, unless anyone has any concerns or questions.
Council President Dillon?
Yeah, no questions, just a good time to say thank you. We don't have to look too far back to see your good works. Yesterday was a prime example. A beautiful program, well-deserved for our veterans that we can never thank enough.
Sure.
And just you, George Poole, everyone, the combined effort, all the veteran organizations. It is a nice day to say thank you, thank you, thank you. It really is.
Yes, sir.
I mean, and I saw you out there Friday placing the flags, Councilor DeMambro out there and some other volunteers. You go above and beyond, and from me, I know I appreciate it, and I know the community appreciates it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all of your support. Sorry, everyone, everybody's
Always.
advance. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Ferrullo?
If I could just echo President Dillon's sentiments. Thank you very much for all you do.
Hey, thank you, Councilor Furlow. Appreciate that, sir.
Councilor DeMambro?
Well, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. This weekend was beautiful. The weather even cooperated. Everything was great. Cemeteries look fantastic. And I also want to thank you for Ferula Park, you know, and the
Yes, sir.
memorial you have up there in North Woburn. It's really, really nice. I know you're doing renovations on some of the flagpoles up
Yep.
there, mechanical
Sure.
tune-ups on some of them, and there's going to be a little shifting up there, but I look forward to seeing the
Yeah.
results.
Yeah, I had said that to you, and I talked to you the other day about that as well. My goal was, the attempt was to try to get that Space Force flag up there.
Yeah.
So we can be, but my problem is the markers are marked as such,
Yep.
with the POW MIA flag flying last, and we're gonna have to move that under the American, so I don't wanna put a cost into extending the monument, putting another flagpole up, more cost on that, but we'll get that done pretty soon, Council.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it, and I'm sure it'll get done with your leadership. I appreciate everything you're doing for us and the veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Demers.
Thank you. No, Bob, I just want to thank you, and again, my colleagues have done a better job than I in echoing the sentiments of everybody, I think, in the community for what you do for our veterans and the programs that we put on for our veterans. And I just also wanted to further my commitment to moving forward with our veterans being able to access the benefits afforded to them under the HERO Act that was passed with the
Yes, sir.
Veterans Tax Exemption.
Yes, sir.
I think I speak for my colleagues where for small token of appreciation we can give to our veterans that qualify for it, to lessen the burden of any tax increases of their property taxes. I know I made that commitment last budget cycle.
Yes, sir.
We continue to work on it. And I just wanted to be on the record saying I hope we can get there so that our veterans are taken care of in the community.
Truly, truly excited to hear that.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Councilor Demers. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good evening.
Anybody else have any comments? Well, from the chair, Bob, I want to thank you very much for everything you do for our veterans in the city. Thank you for all your help for the 250th anniversary celebration we just had for the Revolutionary War up at the Tarky Field, which is now the
Sir.
new Battle Road Historical Monument. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you again.
Take care.
Thanks,
Have a
Bob.
good night.
Next item on the agenda is planning in WRA. Planning Director Cashel.
Good evening, everyone. John
Page
Cashel, Planning
15 in
Director.
the book.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
I do have one handout. I think everybody has a copy of the planning budget.
Yep.
But I have a communication from Kevin McDonough, the grant writer. And what's
on,
attached to that letter?
1 second, John.
Whoop,
Wait for
yep.
Gordon to sit down,
Thank you,
please.
Gordon.
Sir?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, good. You bet.
Somebody want to? I'll entertain a motion to accept this.
Make a motion, we receive this and make it part of permanent record.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director Cashel, you have the floor.
Yeah. Hopefully, you get a chance to skim through that letter, but I'd like to start my presentation by just introducing the content of it. Kevin McDonough was hired last year near the end of May, and as he states in the first part of that letter, the first paragraph, he really appreciates the opportunity to work for the city of Woburn as a grant writer. His anticipation was that he was going to apply for grants this year, get the department up and running, and possibly secure $100,000. As you can see in the paragraph, he far exceeded $100,000 and was able to secure for the city, and it's less than a year now, $1,692,605, which is an extraordinary amount of money. And later in the letter, he acknowledges all the help that he's gotten from the city council, the mayor, Casey Haggerty as the economic development manager for the city, Karen Smith, the assistant planner, was instrumental in helping to coordinate a lot of the grant efforts. And he also thanked the council for all the support that the council's given over the year. And again, in that first paragraph of a multi-paragraph letter, there are $16 million plus in applications of grants that are pending at this point in time. And then I'd just like to point out, attached to the letter is the multitude of grants that were applied for and approved. Those are all highlighted in yellow, and there are a number of the grants after the yellow highlighted table or spreadsheet of all the grants that are pending. And weren't all wins, there are some denied, but we're continuing to work with the state and federal government and private foundations in order to secure what funding is available for Woburn in a multitude of issues, whether they're roadway improvements, utility improvements, police, fire, safety. Kevin's working very closely with Lenny Burnham in his newly appointed position relative to the schools. So it's an overall multi-department approach to the grant writing capacity of the planning office right now. And I could ask the mayor if he is pleased with the efforts of Kevin and the rest of the team. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other part of the budget is pretty mundane. It's, the regular planning budget that comes before the council every year pertaining to the administrative aspects of it. Salaries are listed, of course, on the top, and those are all contractual. We don't have any say in developing those, or I shouldn't say in developing them, but those are contracted sums of money worked out between the mayor and the planning staff. Let's see, everything else has to do with administration aspects of the planning office, education, copier, computer maintenance. There's one line item that you may find of particular importance. It is the most significant line item, and that's consultation. The mayor mentioned that earlier in his presentation, but that's an account that the city utilizes fairly regularly, and especially this past year, where we use that money in that fund for paying for the housing production plan update, which was last updated in 2017, so it's overdue for updating. The master plan, there's a new master plan that's about to receive all the contract signatures relative to putting together an updated master plan for downtown. And just for reference purposes, the last time a master plan was developed for downtown, the original one was in the 60s, early 60s. There's been a lot of attention over the last 30, 40 years about downtown, but there was never a focus or the ability to secure funding to actually conduct a master plan, a new master plan for the downtown area. And the funding for that was secured through State Representative Haggerty. Again, for reference purposes, in regard to that consultant line item, we are now underway with the master plan for that area of North Woburn, known affectionately as, or formally as, the Industryplex site. And this would be a master plan for the west side of the commuter rail, pretty much centered on Merrimack Street, New Boston Street. What we're trying to do, and I've talked to this council about this plan before, we're really trying to get ready for the opportunities that will come our way once the bridge is completed. We're planning and diligently planning for the possibility of a pedestrian bridge that would access from the west side of the commuter rail to the east side, where the Regional Transportation Center is located. Right now, in order to get over there, you got to go right now before the bridge is finished, you got to go all the way around Commerce Way to get over there. What we're really trying to strive for is acquiring the funding necessary for that bridge to be constructed sometime in the future. We're working right now on acquiring the funding, as you're aware, relative to the design and engineering. And you wouldn't think that a pedestrian bridge would cost as much as it's projected to cost, and those projections are anywhere from 13 million to 20 million. So it's a hefty price tag to try to put a pedestrian bridge, and that's not to mention acquisition of land, needed for a parking lot on that side of the tracks. But that's just an example of, or some examples of what that line item is about in the planning office. And there is an explanation. I think everybody got the complete handout besides the organization chart. There's Exhibit B as part of our submission this evening to the council. And that goes through all the line items. And then there's a further explanation of what we've achieved this year in the planning office and what our future goals are in the coming year and years ahead. If anybody has any questions, hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you.
Councilor Mercer Bruin.
Yeah, John, I just have a few questions. Thank you for the presentation. Can you tell me a little bit more about the energy manager position and the energy advocate position? I understand, are they being funded by some sort of grant?
Yes, that was one of the grants acquired, and it's included in the highlighted list.
Right, 3-year grant?
Yes.
Okay.
The energy advocate position, we're really active working with that and how to best manage the sum amount. And what we've decided, and I'm sure the mayor can talk more at length at this, what we've decided for the first year, because we're well into this fiscal year at this point, is, and we've been in consultation with HR about this too, Shauna, and pretty much decided to go with a consultant for the first year, get that program up and running, and get it running properly by an expert in the field, and that would be the consultant hired. And then the succeeding 2 years to take up the task of actually hiring and manning that position. That's for the advocate.
You had me a consultant, I think that's a great idea. I don't think, if you don't mind me jumping on my high horse, John.
I was waiting for that, and I really appreciate it.
I just want to be honest with you, I don't think hiring these positions full-time is a great idea. I think a consultant in these positions is a great idea. I support that 100%. And I'll get to the second part of why I don't think it's a great idea. Because of the potential insurance costs. There will be, even if we hire them through the grant process, right, full-time, they would still need health insurance.
Yeah.
To the tune of, I'm not an expert in these matters, but I'm going to guess, based on 19 years of budgets, and given the healthcare costs right now, around $25,000 to $35,000 each. Not necessary if they're consultants. And I just want to let you know, I don't support hiring those people full-time. I just don't.
And not
Outside of the consultant arena.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's my opinion also, because I know as a city is concerned, we really have to be concerned with our bottom line. But ultimately, that decision hasn't been made. For my own self-purposes, when I was hired last year, I'm not in need of health insurance. So I don't get that in my wife takes care
But there's no
of that.
guarantee that the people that, if we were to hire them, wouldn't need it. So, if it's not clear that that's not going to happen, then I wouldn't support either one of them.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be upfront with you about it.
And that decision, isn't mine to make, and it is being deliberated on.
Okay.
So ultimately, there'll be a lot more discussion and, decisions that have to be made that, I'm not the decision maker, obviously.
Right. But, you know what, I'll reach out to Charlie, because I have a couple of questions on how we might be able to handle that before we get to the vote. So I'll take it to the auditor.
Everything is in flux.
Yep.
No decisions are made.
So I had another question. This has to do with the office hours of the planning department. I know how you're staffed, right? There's yourself, and there's Kevin, and there's Casey, and Karen.
Karen, yep.
I've had some people say that they've come up to the office and people haven't been there. So help for the public at home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one person, otherwise, John, I wouldn't mention it. It would be a one-off. Maybe people showed up at a particular time and you were all at a meeting or something. But help me understand for the public at home what the working hours are and how it works. Are you there generally every single day, unless, of course, you have a meeting with the mayor or something? Of course, those things are going to happen. And the same with the rest of the staff.
Yeah, I'm there every day, most of the time well before 9. If you want to get
So the
it-
doors open at 9. The general public can
yeah,
expect,
9 to 4:30.
if they walk in the office at 9 till 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
that the office is staffed fully.
Yeah, I'd love to explain the situation to you.
You don't have to explain it, John, at all. I just want to make it clear
Yeah.
that that's what the general public can expect. Yes?
You would think that's the case, but, this year, we were short one person in that office for, I'd say 90% of the year. That
One-
person was out, so that
Okay.
reduces us down to 3 people.
Okay?
Kevin is now in his own office, Kevin, the grant writer, he's in his own office, so he's not in the planning office, but he's here from 9
So
to
that gets to the point
4:30.
of staffing. So Kevin doesn't even sit in your office. So that's,
Right.
the public should know that. They think 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's an office that fits relatively comfortable, 3 people. 4 wasn't working, so we were lucky
Oh, I know,
enough-
it's tight, yeah.
Yeah, when you're on Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, and if you're not able to shut a door or two in between and 2 people in the office are in a Zoom meeting, it's mayhem, So that's what happens. Casey is in a position where she's anywhere that's she needs to be, and she could be in meetings off-site all day long, half a day. So no one's glued to their seats.
Of course not. There's the business
then-
of the city, but
Yeah, and
generally speaking, the office is staffed every day 9 to 4.
yeah, it is. But you know what? I'm in meetings all day long, into the night, a lot. So my position does not allow for me to be in that office from 9 to 4:30. If somebody wants to see me, okay, just like a doctor, we all have to have an appointment to see the doctor. The doctor's not waiting there for patients to show up and boom, you got to start treating. We're all professionals, all doing the work. We're not clerks that are in the office 9 to 4:30.
I ask the
impossible.
questions, when people ask me the questions, you understand it's my responsibility to ask you the questions?
You can tell them,
Yeah.
if they need to get a hold of me, they can call me on my cell phone
And-
24/7, okay?
That's
They
great
can
to
set up an
know.
appointment,
Okay.
they can leave a voicemail, they can go to Diane, they can go to another office. People communicate in this building. But
Okay.
how am I supposed to be in my office all this time when these people are looking for me, when I have to go to Boston half the time?
Right.
I'm in the
Honestly,
mayor's office.
John, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to ask questions, and many of these people, again, right, it's hard when someone new comes in, they're just going by their experience that they have with Tina Cassidy, right? So maybe she didn't have to go to as many meetings as you. I don't know. I don't
guarantee
know.
you that.
I'm providing I'm asking you the questions that were asked to me.
Yeah, I can
So
guarantee
thank you
you
for the
that.
clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot of meetings.
Got it.
It's all
Councilor
it's all
Papalato.
important.
Thank you. I just had a quick question on the WRA administration line on your planning maintenance. So it looks like there was $6,000 allocated for this fiscal year. You haven't spent any of it. So question 1 is, why would we not have spent that?
Okay, number 1, that's the insurance premium, annual insurance premium for the former executive director, Mr. Borschelt.
Okay.
And that's a legacy insurance policy that we have to pay. So
Okay.
that's it's showing in there now, it'll be expended.
Yep, it's showing that it's, been spent?
No, it will be expended. It's showing there in the budget as $6,000.
Right.
That's an annual cost to the city. as long as Mr. Borchelt is,
And we didn't spend it this year because the executive director isn't there? Is that?
no, no. He's retired, and the city's obligation for his retirement insurance premium is $6,000 until he's in no longer need of that.
Okay.
Last I checked, he's in need of it because he's still with us.
So why haven't we spent anything then?
I'm just telling you, the premium hasn't been paid yet, but it...
Oh, it's
Yes,
due.
it's due. It will be due
Yeah,
before
that's
the end
good.
of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yeah. The only other issue with the redevelopment authority, we have an income of $4,000 from the brickyard. And that's a negotiated lease for the use of Marlowe Park, which the city owns. And,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Counselor DeMambro?
Hi, John. Your department does an excellent job. Couple things. On this energy advocate, is this something the state's pushing, that we have to have these now in all cities, towns, and municipalities, or is this something we need? And
Yeah, I'm going to let the mayor talk on this one.
So we had 2 grant opportunities that we put in for. One is for an energy advocate, and the other is for a municipal energy manager. These are 2 grants funded by utility companies. They're putting them out there to communities if they want to take advantage of them. We put in for each of these, and we were lucky enough to get them. The energy advocate is designed to serve the residents of Woburn, to kind of be a voice to advertise what's available to try to save money on your utility bills. That's the position. Obviously, it would benefit the utility companies in the end as well. That's why they fund it. But it's a way for us to get the word out to all of our Woburn residents and businesses that perhaps they could take advantage of things like Mass Save or something and save some money on their heating bills. So that's number one. We're not mandated to do it. We were fortunate enough to get it.
Okay.
And to your point, Darlene, we haven't decided yet whether the consultant route is better than the employee route. I hear you. I understand your concerns. I share your concerns. We'll be very cautious when we make that decision. So that's the first position. Second one is the municipal energy manager. Same idea, funded by the utility companies, but this one allows this person to work for the city to look at our buildings to see if there's a way for us to save money on our utility bills. Again, funded by the utility company. This is from them to us for our purposes. That position we expect would work more closely, not in planning, but in the facilities manager office, the position we just, with this council's support, we funded. Again, so 2 ideas. One's looking outward to the residents, how can we help them save money? Second is looking inward, how can the city save money on our utility cost for our own facilities?
excellent.
Good?
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And my next thing, John, is, I appreciate everything that Kevin did on the grant writing. And 1.692, that's nice. 16 million, in process is even better. Hopefully next year we can double it, because we're looking for every penny we can get. So I appreciate all the efforts and everything your department's doing, Kevin, yourself, Karen, Casey, because as you well know, costs, they just keep rising. Our budgets keep rising. So anything you guys can do in terms of grants that you can get from the feds, the state, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Can I just say one thing, too?
Yes, sir.
It's really important to realize that both Casey and Kevin work hand in hand with the mayor, too. So there's a lot of coordination going on with the mayor, with the grant applications, and, there's just so much, energy going on between the offices. And we're really trying to stay on top of all the opportunities that Woburn has the opportunity to apply for these grants. And it's worked out really well so far, and I think next year we're really going to be, in full stride in acquiring as much funding as we can.
And just one more thing. I am looking forward to that new Boston Street analysis. So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be one of the first of
Yeah.
3
We
or
actually
4 to
have
read it.
we've had Zoom meetings already with the consultant, and we do have a field inspection, field tour scheduled.
Excellent. I appreciate it if you can keep me in the loop on that. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
100%.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Counselor Demers?
Thank you. Director Cashel, if possible, could we possibly get an electronic version of this, maybe quarterly, just to keep us updated? Because I
100,
think-
yes,
I
definitely.
think out of one of the, there's very few times in government where we can make an investment in a position that actually has financial measurables that come in. So I think
Yeah.
the council knowing and being more up to date on all the pending matters on here would be very helpful to us when we go out and justify supporting the budget. I would also caution, because after the mayor had just spoken about the energy advocate and a municipal energy manager, that makes me support where Councilor Mercer Brewing's coming from even more. Because I think once we get into full-time positions for somebody doing basically the same thing but in different directions, I would hate to have two people in those positions when it's going to be hard for me to say why we can't have one person doing both. So I think I would just urge both the mayor and the planning director to please just look at the consultant route if we can, because it just seems like it could be one position doing both things. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And can I say something on that? Thank you, Counselor. This is really the mayor's bailiwick. It isn't my bailiwick. These are really important positions for all the data that can be collected, and it's all about trying to save energy, and that's what these programs are all about.
Sure, and I'm all
Yeah.
for it. I'm not questioning the motive of the positions. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if we hire two people
Yeah.
to do that under the grant funding, and it's basically somebody could probably be doing both of those jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I think if we look at it and just hire two consultants, that's probably the best, more
and
fiscally responsible approach.
yeah.
Best bang for our buck, so to speak.
Yeah, and I've worked for the mayor now for over a year. He's completely astute, and he doesn't look to pad the accounts or anything.
No,
He's-
totally understand. I'm
yeah.
not calling anybody out in that regard. I would also encourage if we're going to be doing the bookkeeping, maybe we move that under the mayor's budget then.
Yeah.
If it's not something that would fall under your bailiwick, but that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
President Dillon?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you to everyone that works in that department as well. I've had the pleasure to work with Karen, Casey, and Kevin, and everyone's great to work with. We've had different projects together, and everyone's very responsive. I've reached out recently to Kevin to keep different ideas open and see what's out there for a couple of the Hurl Park, the Plimpton open space. So he's always receptive and working on that. Recently, we were granted a grant for the handicap mats, which I hope will be used over at Library Park. With some recent health issues I've had, it opens up your eyes when you think about tomorrow's activities you have to do, and we take for granted that we have two capable legs and can do those things. So the simplest, simple is not the word, the most, I'll go with simple, the most simple grant that may be not a big deal for us that we look at as just doing business is a life changer for some of these people. So I'm using the example of these mats that make it handicap accessible to get down to Library Park to an event that Kevin was able to get. And it just opens your eyes. That's part of the good works that you guys are all doing, and it's appreciated, and it should be recognized as well. Thank you.
One thing Kevin didn't praise himself in here, I don't think, but no one's been working harder and more diligently, more responsibly than Kevin. He's really going way over and above Call of Duty and everything he's done for the city in the last year. So it's been great to have him on board.
Thank you.
Council Mercer Bruin?
Oh, thank you. I actually had a question for the mayor, but to your point about Kevin, I think it would be great. We had Casey come down and give us an overview the other night, and I think we all benefited from that. Some of those projects that have been going on for years, and
Yeah.
I think it would be wonderful if Kevin came down and gave us a presentation. I think that would be great.
He'd love to do it, I'm sure.
That would be awesome. President Dillon, can we arrange that?
I second
Chair?
that as well.
All right.
Yeah.
I had a follow-up question for just Mayor Concanon.
Go right ahead.
Just quickly, Mayor, back on the positions. And the reason I harp on it is because I've seen us, in the past get these grants, and you're right, we are very lucky to get these grants. And that's important, but sometimes these positions really don't need to be full-time, right? They just don't. If you're and I go back to the point of the facilities, right? Once you could have, I think we talked about this in committee, you could have somebody come in and do a whole review of our buildings and give us a plan of how to get to where we need to from an energy efficiency perspective, and then
Yeah, this will
hire
help us
someone.
do that.
Yeah, hire someone to execute it. Doesn't necessarily have to be a long-term person. But at the end of the day, will we know, before we pass this budget, if there will be funds allocated for benefits for these folks? Will you be able to tell us that?
Yeah, the amount of money that the grant allows for can be used for consultant or for salary or salary and benefits. So we haven't decided yet. I think, as John alluded to, we're in phase one of the energy advocate position. We're going through the contract. We're determining whether a consultant is the best first step. When it comes to the municipal energy manager, we haven't even got the contract back yet. So we're a little further behind on that. If you're asking tonight, before you approve the budget, can I commit to you whether these two positions will be full-time or consultant? I'm not sure yet, but I would lean towards consultant, at least for this first year, to get through the first year.
All right, thank you.
That just seems to make most sense, to hire somebody to help us understand what to do with this grant, how we get the biggest bang for our buck. And if we were to decide to go the full-time route in subsequent years, I would expect that the consultant would help us to pick the best person too. So I don't think we're anywhere near hiring full-time positions for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Demers?
Yeah, no, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, because it's the planning board and the WRA, I just wanted to recognize two WRA members we have in the crowd. I saw Chair Anthony Lincone and Maria Zecco. Just wanted
I
to
am
thank
back
them
there.
for everything that they're doing. I think the mayor knocked the ball out of the park on a few of the appointments recently on the WRA to reinvigorate that board, and I'm looking forward to working with them to move the process forward of revitalizing downtown. So it's going to be an exciting, I think, coming months, so just wanted to recognize them for coming out this evening.
Yeah, we got a reinvigorated Woburn Redevelopment Authority. They're so eager to get things done, and I really think we have a lot of exciting things happening in the downtown area, and you'll be seeing a lot of that in this coming year. Okay, trying to get the park lit up out there. I was told to wrap things up. I know you have a big budget item coming up next.
Before you leave, John, I have a couple comments. First, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Happy to see that Kevin's been able to get all these grants, and especially happy to see that Kevin was able to get $165,000 in grants for the schools. So that actually is very important.
And one other person I'd like to mention that really helps out a lot in all of this is our numbers guy, Charlie Doherty. Comes to bat every day for us and helps us coordinate all the expenditures and the grant applications and everything else.
Then just a follow-up question. The offset for the Economic Development Manager, is that paid through a grant?
Yeah, everything having to do with that particular person or that position that may end up happening is through the grant.
All right, and so that grant expires this year, correct?
Chairman, if I could, so
Yep.
that position is funded by the WRA wind down. The funds are expiring in December.
Yeah.
So what you'll see in your budget is half a year of, we'll call it grant
Yeah.
funding, and half a year of city budget. We discussed this in committee
Yeah.
for a month or two.
Thank you.
I didn't hear the first part, but
Yeah.
yes, the city's going to be committed to funding that position.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next on the agenda is Woburn Public Schools. I'd like to make mention Dr. Crowley, Chair Crowley, and members of the school committee and administration staff.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Do you have our materials? Do you have our budget book?
Yep.
And your materials, okay. We also have an additional handout. Are you handing that up?
Yeah,
Are you going to wait? Okay. So I will open up with brief remarks. Please bear with me. As we move into fiscal year 2026, Woburn, the city of Woburn, has a very successful school system that I know we all should be proud of. As the city council, I know that you're aware, as the school committee is, how important it is to have a excellent school system in any city, as it is a cornerstone to growth and development in the city. Woburn has very high levels of indicators that we are a robust school system. We have a strong, united workforce and teachers that advocate for appropriate working conditions. We have robust in-district education programming for all of our learners that are specially designed for learners with extraordinary resiliencies. We have programs designed for children who are facing serious, life-altering events in their lives, such as homelessness, loss of family, grief, and trauma. We have social workers who every day experience children trying to navigate classroom functioning while also dealing with the impact of trauma. We have teachers that are watching children learn to read every day on multiple levels and learn to add and subtract. Teenagers, don't forget about teenagers. We have those too. We have teenagers that are navigating very complex social issues that are new to us, that we still fully don't understand, and yet they're in our high school and our middle schools. We have athletes that have broken records that will participate in college sports because of their experiences in the Woburn Public Schools. And we don't just have art and music. Oh no. We have several multitude avenues where students can experience full artistic expression in our schools. As you saw, our band just yesterday. So how do we do all this? The question is, how do we as Woburn Public Schools do all this? The answer is people. We have people. We have excellent principals who every day are educational leaders and run the buildings to keep our children safe. Because as we know, the world is not always safe for our kids, but they keep them safe. We have a leadership team who is here with me tonight, Dr. Crowley, Dr. Ryan, Alex Dizio, Courtney Young, who work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Dedicated, selfless public servants. Furthermore, we have cafeteria workers, custodians, crossing guards, paraprofessionals, coaches, lunch monitors. Everyone matters. Everyone contributes. That is why when we pass our budget, it is all about people. For these reasons, and for so many other reasons, I am profoundly proud to represent the Woburn School Committee. I am profoundly proud of the members of the school committee who always stay late, study, deliberate in honesty and transparency. So I, Ellen Crowley, am extremely optimistic for the future of Woburn Public Schools. And I invite you, if not implore you, to come into the fold of optimism. See this budget as an opportunity to help our kids. See this budget as a way to pass the budget, move our district forward, and join with us so we can continue to do the great things. We came to the mayor with a budget of 6.53, and we have already been reduced $440,000. This is going to be a precarious situation that the school committee finds itself. I ask you not to make any further adjustments to our budget. Pass the budget as is. When you look at the budget, I suggest you look at pages 19, 37, and 50. Not so much part of the figures of the budget, but the statements from our principals as to why this budget is so important, particularly the literacy initiatives that are going on in the elementary school system, which I didn't have time to talk about tonight, but I'd love to talk about. Those things are happening in our school system, and without funding, we won't be able to do it. That concludes my remarks for now. We will answer all of your questions, but I ask you, please, don't cut our budget anymore. Respect the school committee's authority to determine what is best for the education system, and I will pass it on to Dr. Crowley and myself to answer any further questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I do have a handout.
Make a motion to receive this and make part of permanent record?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Love the pictures.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you. I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I'll talk through all of the pictures in the handout, but before I do that, I just wanted to start by saying a genuine thank you to the City Council and to the Mayor. Last year's budget, I recognize, was record-setting. I remember standing here and answering your questions and being so appreciative of your passing that budget. And it reflected a significant investment in the Woburn Public Schools. And it's through your support that a lot of what Ms. Crowley just referenced has happened. As we begin deliberations tonight together on FY26, I did want to take a few moments to highlight the impact that last year's funding has had on our staff and our students, and how we together, the school department, the school committee, the city council, and the mayor, pulled together for all of our kids. The funding last year, again, I recognize the significant increase, did allow us to advance the work that we have outlined in our strategic plan and move closer to our shared vision, building systems and structures that we need to ensure that all Woburn students have access to the high-quality education that the community values and expects. With that being said, sometimes pictures are worth more than words. I'm going to go by row, if you don't mind, on the front of the document that I gave to you. Ms. Crowley alluded to it, but our Fine and Performing Arts program is bar none one of the best in the region. I happened to see Jack Tully this morning at the high school. The size of the high school band has doubled in the past few years. He has said that this is the best the music program has ever been. Our theater productions get sold out. Our musicals get sold out. We have to run multiple productions at elementary schools because so many parents are showing up to these productions. Tanner Fest is one of my favorite events of the year. To me, I think about all the students that have some creative outlet that otherwise might not be met, and whether it's through music or art or drama, some way for them to have a productive release so that when they go into the classroom, they are ready, willing, and able to learn. The second row speaks to our literacy initiative that Ms. Crowley alluded to. One of the investments made last year was in reading specialists, K-8. One of the things that I would actually say thank you to the committee, but also to the mayor. We spend Fridays, the Matt and Mike walk around the city, and we've invited school committee members and city councilors, and so thank you for coming in and watching and seeing a lot of what's happening in schools. That's always the question. How do we tell you what's happening in schools, all of the great things? And having you come and see is the best way that I can think to do that. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity every Friday. But the reading specialists are really, really instrumental. We've moved the needle with the literacy. We use a DIBELS at the elementary level. We test students 3 times per year, the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. Next week is the end of the year. But over the past 3 years, our DIBELS scores have increased. You could see a 50% increase in the students meeting benchmark by the mid-year. Our reading specialists are paying dividends. Kids need support to read. I think you've seen that in the newspaper publicly. But Woburn, I believe, was ahead of the curve in funding these positions to try to narrow that gap. So thank you. Thank you for supporting community events on the bottom row. We've had literacy nights. In the lower left corner is the Shamrock Literacy Night. That's Principal Wayne Clark. He's been there 18 years. He's the most enthusiastic principal you'll meet. He'll dress like anything to get kids excited to learn. We have Field Day, and we've celebrated last week the Academic Achievement Awards at the high school. We have kids going to Ivy League schools. We have kids going to trade schools. We have kids going to military. We have kids going everywhere, and we meet their needs. It's two-sided. We also take care of our little people, our ECP program that we've talked about probably more than you'd like to hear. But that's grown. We educate students from 3 years old and up. The ECP program, largely, there's 9 ECP classes at the Reeves and 4 at the Shamrock. They bring live animals. Lisa Murphy, who's the coordinator of the ECP program, does a really nice job to try to make it engaging for kids. And our staff, the ECP staff, are amazing. And so, again, from 3 to 22, we do it all. The second row down speaks to the high school. One of the things that I'm most proud of is we've started an early college program at Woburn Memorial High School where we have next year over 100 students signed up to take classes through at Woburn Memorial High School, but through UMass Lowell, and achieve up to 12 credits, so a semester worth of credit for free. So we started this 2 years ago. Kim Gustenhoven, who's our science curriculum coordinator, started this. And this coming year, we're going to have it in all 4 core subjects. The kids are excited, and the opportunity to provide free college credit while in high school is something that I think can be game-changing to many of our students. So I believe the high school really is expanded opportunities for all of our kids. The number of AP classes has expanded as well. And again, we are trying to meet the needs of all students regardless of where they are or what their plans may be. The facilities, and this is not a capital talk, but our facilities have been tuned up as well. The high school auditorium was recently renovated. The second picture in it looks like there's some kids sitting on the floor. It might be a little blurry. That's actually called flexible seating, and so we've invested in different ways for students to learn. Some students need to sit on the ground. Some students need something to kick. Some students sit on a ball. And again, the city council and school committee, when we visit schools, often we talk about, boy, this doesn't look like what it was like when we were in school, and it doesn't. But it's a credit to the investment that we've made together to meet those needs of our kids. The other thing that we've done over the past year is invested in safety. So one of the pictures there, we have an I Love You Guys protocol. It's our safety protocol. We brought people in on election day for a full day of professional development for our staff. School safety is something that we have to take incredibly seriously, and we've done that. The other thing relative to school safety in the coming couple months, if you recall, a couple years ago, we came before the council for funding for locks, for door locks. So Lenny Burnham has gone through that process, and over the summer, 4 of our schools will be rekeyed, with new locks on every classroom door to make sure that they are safe and consistent. So again, it's people, it's safety, it's the myriad of needs that all of our kids have and need to come to school and feel safe and supported so they can learn. The next to the bottom, next to last, we've had multiple professional development offerings this year. I do want to say thank you, and I was remiss. Ms. Young, Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Ryan, Assistant Superintendent are here. We've put together an incredibly robust professional development for our staff. And candidly, the only way student achievement improves is if adults improve. And I think it's incumbent on me to improve. It's incumbent on people to grow. We've tried to do that. We've invested in new curricular items. As you know, the Reveal Math program last year and some literacy programs in the previous years. But one of the things when I came to Woburn that I felt like we needed to change was not just buy a new curriculum and hope that it worked and expect that teachers could do this. We need to help people learn how to use the tools so that they can be successful. And so a lot of time and energy has gone into professional development of our staff. And our teachers are amazing. All of our staff are, but their willingness to learn is what is really a driver in the district. Last but not least, Tanner Pride. Our high school hockey team, the boys hockey team, made it to the Final Four. The girls basketball made it to the Final Four. We have a Latin team. We have a math team. We have so many different activities for students at the high school. There's a activities fair every fall. I would encourage you to come sometime. It's mind-blowing how many activities are available to our students. One of the most recent ones that was added was the Black Student Union, and they now go and participate at different elementary schools and engage with their younger learners. And so, again, we're really, really proud of what we're doing this year and where we want to go. And so I was asked earlier, how's it going? I said, it's busy because we're trying to land one plane this year and plan for next year. So as we're doing that, it's great to try to live in the moment, but at this time we have hiring has begun for a lot of retirement positions. We're looking to fill as soon as we can. My experience tells me that the sooner you can post and fill a position, the deeper the candidate pool. And so it's always easier to post and hire in April and May than in August or September. And so I'm grateful that we're able to do some of that now. And I look forward to answering some of your budget questions. And I will actually speak a little bit to our process relative to the budget. In December, one of the things that we did this year, and to Mr. DeMambro's point last year, we started budgeting FY26 right away, but before we did that FY26 budget, we had meetings with every principal and looked at their FY25 spending in December. And if they haven't spent the money, we reduced the line. Overall, we reduced 52 lines from FY25 to FY26. If the line wasn't being used or spent, we removed it. And so before we even got to FY26, because what we didn't want were people to just carry forward line items year after year after year with no analysis. And so a thank you to Alex Dizio and Patty McKinnon, who I know is here as well. One of the things they did was do a 3-year look back at every single line item in the budget. So we can say to you with confidence that we know that these line items have been spent, or they were not spent, or they were overspent in some situations. And so when we started the budgeting discussions with principals and directors, we'd already taken that look at the current FY25 budget. And so I just want you to know that. This has been a long, iterative process that we've gone through to get here tonight. Our total budget that was passed by the school committee was $96,402,440. a year-over-year increase of 6.68. Some roll-forward statistics that have been asked for that I want to share with you. 5 points to roll forward with salary rollover only and all other line items level funded is 5.6%. Again, salary rollover only and all other line items level funded is 5.6%. With salary rollovers and the legal and contractual positions that were added after our budget was passed last year is 6.4%. And if you take the salary rollover, the legal and contractual added positions, and contractual increases, for example, special ed transportation going up $900,000 for next year, our budget is at 6.8%. And so to get to the 6.6 that we did, we went through a myriad of reductions. And I'll highlight some of them for you. I gave you the line item reduction. We looked at the 52 lines and reduced. We reduced our electrical number, again, because of analysis done, but also, I'm going to say words that I don't really understand right here, Rob. Load shedding, because of, I think we're more efficient with our electricity. Mr. Burnham's done a nice job looking at some of our systems and making sure that we are more efficient. So we were able to reduce our electrical line item by $400,000. Our special ed out-of-district tuition is also level funded, or reduced by $400,000 from what we initially requested. Dr. Ryan, who's still here, she had a family thing, but Dr. Ryan, as you may or may not know, works incredibly closely with Charlie Doherty, with Alex Dizio, to manage the special education budget, which is nearly $33 million. In some districts, the special education budget is almost 50% of their overall budget. And so again, Ms. Crowley alluded to, we run programs in district. It costs money to invest in people to have the programs, but it's cheaper than paying for students to go out of district. Recently, we've had a few move-ins, and they can range from anywhere from $75,000 to $400,000. And by law, we are required to educate. And so I do believe that we've done a great job of increasing our internal capacity relative to our special education programming. Our autism program, the RISE program, is talked about. People talk about the Woburn Public Schools autism program statewide. And so I think that's a good thing, but it may be a reason why we're attractive to people too, but that's okay. We've also looked at retirements. There's a few positions that through paraprofessionals and teachers we're not looking to backfill. We're restructuring the curriculum department. We're going to reduce the curriculum department by one coordinator. We have we're going to reduce the ML department by one teacher. And then through a restructuring of the tech department, we've gone down $35,000. We've also moved positions where we can into grants. So we have pre-K grant that we have positions in. We have a special ed grant that we have positions in. Lunch monitors, as an example, we had them in the budget because we need them. We found out last year that we could actually pay them through a revolving account with the food service department. So we tried to take them out, but we can't, or we felt like we wanted to get the percent and then ask as low as possible for you. So as an example, move those lunch monitors, who are part-time people, but cost money, back into that revolving account. And so I give you this context because, we produce, I hope, it makes sense to you, our budget book for you. And I know that we're asking for a great deal of money. I wouldn't ask if I don't think we need it. I try to be in schools every day. Our kids are awesome. Our staff are great. And I appreciate your support this year, and I look forward to helping answer any questions that you might have as we look to FY26. Thank you.
Comments and questions from the council? Councilor Mercer-Brown.
Thank you. My question's for Charlie, you're still here? Sorry. The 52 lines, the reduction in the 52 lines that Mr. Crowley spoke about, were those discussed in the WUSTAT meetings?
They were at broad level and discretion.
Okay. And do we have the detailed documentation on each one?
Charlie, if you could come up for the people at home could hear you.
There is detail, I don't have it in our office, but Alex Dizio would be able to give you that.
That would be great. I'd love to get that. Thank you so much. Also, one more question, Charlie. During the WUSTAT meetings last year, there was a review of the salaries that were provided in last year's budget, and there were discrepancies in those salaries that was presented to the council. I think there were 3 or 4 of them. Those salaries were different. They were higher. Can you just give an overview for the council as to what that was about? I was terribly concerned about it, but
I think that's kind of the growing pains we're having. The fact is, our budget is set exactly to what it is. On the school side, there's a little bit more discretion in what they have. They had some positions were underfunded, some were overfunded. And as that was one thing when we did start having the WUSTAT meetings, Alex and his team worked with us to bring those line items in line so that we're appropriately funded. And I believe going forward, we'll be more at that level, but there's still some growing pains within that.
okay, thank you. And to that point, how many salaries in this budget do you think are actually true to what's been presented to us tonight, Mr. Crowley?
How many, sorry?
How many of the salaries that you presented here this evening,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking in particular some of the very high salaries, those salaries that were
yeah.
discovered to have discrepancies were in the 150,000. So
Actually, can I speak to that?
Yes,
And I think
yeah.
that might be the question you asked, Charlie. So we had some unsettled principal contracts last year before the budget was settled. I also added 20 days to elementary principal contracts, so they're working more, so they needed to be market adjusted.
Okay. I distinctly remember asking about the contractual number last year during the budget, asking you and everyone else in the room what that number was, and we were pointed to page 9, I think. Nobody could give me that number off the top of their head. So let me ask you this year, of the numbers that have been presented for the salaries, will those, for the most part, stay the same as what the council's looking at tonight?
Yes.
They will. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
That's all I have for now. I have several other things, but I will defer to the rest of the council. Thank you.
Councilor Toro.
Thank you. Dr. Crowley, first off, thank you to you, Chair Crowley, Maureen, Courtney, Alex, and the team. Through the budget cycle, you've explained some of the process that you've went through to try to reduce the budget, understanding the fiscal impact on the city. Having 2 children in the school system, I see every day the hard work that, the teachers, the support staff, the administration puts in, specifically at the Goodyear, and I'm sure it's at all the other schools. I've visited a lot of them on those Friday tours. So thank you. I appreciate that. Reading over the budget, and specifically that page, the budget drivers, I was happy to see, you touched on a few of them, some of the decreases, in the electricity, saving some money, the decrease in the general ed, I think, transportation line item too. I was a little concerned with the contractual increase of the special ed transportation. It is what it is, but I guess my question there is, when that contract is negotiated, I'm assuming we agree on that large increase for that, was it the third year, give or take? I think, it went up substantially. Why, I guess my question is, I have multiple questions, but why is such a large increase agreed on? It's almost $1 million. I think it was a 22% or something like that percent increase year over year. But I guess that's my question initially, is why is such a large increase?
So we don't negotiate the special ed transportation. We're part of the SEAM Collaborative. We're one of 10 member districts that are part of SEAM. And so that's a special ed collaborative. It's housed over in Stoneham on Montvale Ave. And we are the biggest consumer of SEAM Collaborative. And we have the most number of students going to SEAM Collaborative. The contract this year, the increase is, I'm going back a few years, pre-COVID in 2020, they haven't raised their rates over the past few years, and so they reopened the bid this year, and so.
So you got hit all at once?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the background there, and just if I may, we have a good relationship with NRT and SEAM, and the drivers that drive our kids every day, they're challenging students, and so I'm grateful for what they do. I will tell you that the collaborative, Kathy Lawson's the executive director of the SEAM Collaborative, and we are lucky in Woburn to have such a high-functioning collaborative. I really believe that.
I did like to see in the budget, I supported it last year during the budget time, the addition of the building subs. I think that was, or as it stands now, I am in support of that. I do like to see a common or consistent face in the building, instead of random substitutes that come in. It allows, the students to develop a relationship with another consistent adult. So I did like to see that. As Chair Crowley said, it's your responsibility to advocate for the children. We're in a little bit of a unique situation where we need to advocate for both the children, but also all of the residents, all the constituents in the city. And one of the biggest drivers is obviously the budget and how that impacts people's taxes. And we did make a large investment into our schools last year. I think everyone agrees. And I think we want to continue to support our schools. The schools are very important to our children, to our community, making our community a better place. So I appreciate that. It will be seen over the next couple weeks how that plays out. Have you put any thought into, just curious, to put you on the spot, I guess, how you plan on absorbing that $440,000?
No, Councilor Toro, the school committee meets tomorrow night, so I can't say for sure that we've thought about it at all. There are some new asks for positions that we could potentially look at, but I definitely do not want to speak on behalf of the committee in that regard.
Okay.
I also just, you mentioned special transportation. I just feel the need to elaborate a little bit that it could be possible that we need to transport a child with a trach, right? And so when we talk about special transportation, it is highly complex transportation, and it's a required service on an IEP. So it could be one of those situations where we have a new child that's completely welcomed into the district, but might need a ride that could require that child to be alone and with a nurse. And I know that Dr. Ryan would probably want me to elaborate on that, or yeah, did you want to say anything more on that? I just think it's a really important question,
Yeah,
since it's almost $1
absolutely.
million. So I just want to make sure the right subject matter experts are up here. Thank you, Dr. Ryan.
Yeah, hi, good evening. To answer your question, it's a big line, and I think that people often wonder, is it cost effective? Do we need to do this? So yes, it is legally required. The students are very complex. What I will tell you is that by being under the SEAM contract with NRT, What it allows us to do is share rides. So for example, all of the communities that participate in this, if we have a student that we need to transport, for example, to Natick, if there is somebody else in the group transporting a student there, what we do is we share the cost. So it is a fairly significant savings. I will also share that there are several occasions where NRT is not able to staff the ride. Sometimes it's because they need a one-to-one RN for medical reasons on the ride. And so, for example, today I did have to send a ride out, and I send it to 3 companies, and they generally come in considerably more than NRT. So the ride that I sent out today came in at 500, 600, and one others, and that's a daily rate. So even though it's an astronomical increase with the contract that is negotiated with SEAM relative to the rates we get from other companies, it's actually cost-effective.
Yeah, and I think my concern was it needed? I know it's needed. Was more or less, are we getting the most competitive price out there, or are we seeking that? And it seems like the answer to that question is yes.
Yes, we do. We actually probably at least once a week are sending something to get quotes. And again, I always do 3 at a time to see. The other piece I would add is that there is some legislative action in terms of increasing the circuit breaker reimbursement for transportation. And if it passes, it would bump it up to 90%. Whether or not it passes and whether or not they fully fund circuit breaker is another question. But that would help to provide districts with some relief, because it's a significant expense.
2 other questions for me, from me. So in the budget, I see in a lot of the schools a line item for horizontal moves. Can you explain really what that is and why it's in the budget for each school as a placeholder or line item?
Yeah, sure. So the way the teacher contract reads is that they are both on steps like year 3, 4, 5, et cetera. But they can, if they start at a bachelor's and then earn 15 credits towards a master's, they would move horizontally. So the more credits that teachers earn, the more they get paid. So it goes 15, then 30, a master's, 15, 30. So that's the horizontal line item that you see.
So is that pretty much, so if a teacher's at, let's just use round numbers, $100,000 at the start of the budget, so that's what you budgeted for, but mid-year they go to 104, that $4,000 is covered by that horizontal move? That's like a mid-year increase? Is that?
That's fair to say. And I also think we did, is it March 1st?
March 1st, they're doing this now.
Yeah, so one of the things that we negotiated with the WTA in the last contract was that we need staff to teachers to let us know if they are planning to move within the next fiscal year by March 1st.
When you say move from school to school?
No.
Gotcha. So these are salary,
Continuing ed.
these are salary increases expected but not yet known at the time of the budget submittal?
Correct.
Essentially?
They're anticipated, yes.
So how is it that, like, each of the schools that you come up with, just, again, I'll use a random, 27,000 for the Malcolm White, 30,000 for the Goodyear, how is that figured out?
So Mr. Dizio, get the forms feed into his office, and then based on where people are moving, whether it's from a bachelor's to a master's, he sees the grid, the teacher grid, and is able to allocate that.
So these aren't really placeholder line items. These are because I think you said they're known by March of. So they would have, for this current year coming up, they would have been known by the end of March. So you're expecting these, and these are true numbers that you'll be paying.
We
out.
anticipate these, yes.
Okay, so they're not just random numbers put into the budget expecting, and then if you don't pay it out, the school department then gets suspended elsewhere?
No, we can give you the backup
I was
data if
just-
you want, but that's how it's arrived at.
Gotcha, okay, so they're, okay. And then the last thing, just for anyone looking at the school budget, right, I think more clarification. Within each of the schools, not any one specific school, but there are significant increases in salaries, ranging from, in some instances 40% to in some instances over 100%, right? I'm sure there's explanations. I can go through this real quick and pick out a few, but can you explain, let me try to pull an example out real quick, but, let's say the Reeves. The nurse, there's 101.48% change in salary, goes from 79,000 to 159. I'm assuming that's because of addition of a second nurse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm just-
yes,
okay.
exactly. Mhm.
And then just some other random ones I'll give, like the Linscott. I guess that's the nurse position. So fiscal year '25 was just under 66 grand, and fiscal year '26 is 105, but it looks like it's only one position. So what's the,
At the Linscott?
yeah,
And this happens, and so the nurse moved from the Alta Vesta last year to the Linscott this year. So her salary moved with her.
gotcha.
And so when people move internally, that can have an impact on that percentage.
Obviously, the salary follows the person, right?
Yeah, sure. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'd hope that they weren't getting a
Yeah, that-
$50,000 pay decrease,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
that's all I have for now. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
And thank you, I just want to recognize there's a bunch of school committee members as well sitting here, I think, in support of the budget too. So thank you all for showing up as well.
Thank you for allowing the indulgence of elaborating on the special ed
Absolutely.
transportation, because I know it's just really important, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
President Dillon?
Thank you. First off, I'm sure one thing we're all going to agree on here tonight is we really do somehow need to get more help from the federal government and the state government. Our special education, just education in itself. I don't know how they can continue to ignore this, but I guess that's all of us that need to advocate for that. I appreciate everything Dr. Crowley, school committee, all the administration does. I know I've sat in on many of these meetings at the mayor's office, and I know it is not a simple process, to say the least. But we on city council have a balance as well. We have an obligation to our constituents to not only ask some of the tough questions, but make sure that we continue on the path that we have, able to make sure all our residents and constituents can continue to live in this city. I'm speaking about our elderly, that everything's gone up in them, and they don't have the capability to say, maybe I can get an extra shift at work. Maybe I'll cut out a vacation. Many of them are on fixed pensions, fixed Social Security, and everything around them is going up. So that's the side of it we have to look at. We also have, this may sound crazy to some people, but I still believe that Woburn is very much still a blue-collar city. We had State Rep Haggerty in here recently, and he gave a statistic, 43 or 47% of our housing is rentals. A lot of that's our blue-collar community that are working not only one job, some of them are working two jobs. Sometimes it's the mother and the father both working to try to pay their rent. So when we go up on our taxes, we have to think of them as well, because their landlord isn't going to absorb that increase. He's going to pass it right on to them. That's what we all have to think about. We'd love to give you whatever is needed.
Okay, bye.
We'd love to give you that. But this is the side that we have to look at. I see the great things that are going on at Woburn High, and I appreciate that. I know everyone's working hard, but it isn't a simple process that we can write a blank check, and you all know that. I thank Dr. Crowley for talking about the safety issues, because no one should have to worry about going to school, coming home from school, going to lunch, going to the restroom, and worrying about their safety. how can they learn? They can't. So I appreciate that. Last, before I get into my two questions, thank you for the tear of pride. I'm 66 years old. Every time I still go into that high school, I feel it here. It's a great gift that everyone that walks through those doors, even though it's a different set of doors from when I went there, it's still the same, and it's hard to describe, but I know a lot of us here have that, and thank you for bringing it up. But my first question is, on the 2025 budget for the Joyce Junior High, the principal budget was a total salary of $180,141. And I know the shift was from the principal to leave the Joyce and go over to the high school. And when I look at the 2026 budget that was supplied to us for fiscal year 2026, the Woburn Memorial High School, your first line item is the principal, and it's $172,698. So I know, or I would think, he didn't take a discount, and before I ask for your explanation, I say that not based on the individual who did it, because his qualifications, his educational leadership is beyond reproach. So I want to clarify that. But the numbers don't add up here, and when I looked at it, I couldn't figure it out, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, so to your point, he didn't take a discount. And so to Ms. Mercer-Bruin's question earlier, this was published in advance. We can either modify this document for you, but we have accounted for it, and we have a salary line adjustment.
But do we have that here, Dr. Crowley? That's kind of what I believe Councilor Mercer-Bruin was going with this. It would have been nice if in the presentation that there was half a dozen, 10 of the biggest ones.
So I can tell you, since you bring it up, the shift from the Joyce to the high school is 1, and the AP at the Joyce, the assistant principal is becoming the principal next year, interim principal, so there's an adjustment there as well.
I guess I'll follow it up with, so he was making $180,141 as the Joyce principal, and now as the high school principal. Do we know what that number is he's making now?
I can get it to you. I think it's closer to 200.
Okay.
Jump in.
So I will just say that we have a salary adjustment evaluation line within the administration budget, which accounts for any of these contract increases that happen subsequent. So this budget was passed by school committee on April 30th. Some changes have happened since then, obviously. In order to account for those, we've accounted for that in the salary adjustment evaluation line, which is funded, I think, at $50,000 this year. So any of those changes would be accounted for there.
And I appreciate that, but just so you know what I did, I took the 2025, 2026 and kind of went page to page.
Sure.
It would have been a lot easier if that was explained previously, somewhat to what Councilor Mercer-Bruin indicated earlier. It's just the level of comfort that we all need to share with each other, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
My second question is on legal. For myself and for the public, can you explain the increase, a big increase, and what caused that?
So I think the increase is 25,000, if I'm not mistaken,
It
off the
sounds
top of
right.
my head. We have multiple reasons. I'm trying to give you a real response.
I appreciate that.
There's a couple different things. One is we're a busy organization and we have a lot of different labor issues that require someone beyond a human resource direct, one human resource person to handle. So we have had to use legal counsel to either guide our human resource director or to manage some of the labor relations issues that we've had. And so with that in mind, we increased the line for next year. So that we initially had it level funded, and the increase was $25,000. You know, with the $440,000 reduction, we'll probably go back to the last year's line.
I'll also address that because that was a committee decision. The school committee added that back in, $25,000, because of the upcoming negotiations. We wanted counsel during that process.
Okay. And just my final question, anything else that we should know about that you can think of that you can tell us that is somewhat of a conflict of what we have here?
Sorry, what? Say that one more time, please.
Anything, any other fairly large numbers different than what we have here that will come out that the digger we deep, or do you feel comfortable with what we have here?
I mean, I think with the salary adjustment question, I'm sorry I didn't get that right away. That would be a variable. I don't think there's anything else that will come out. The thing that I would say is that we're budgeting now in real time for what we think.
Thank you.
And so we don't know what school will look like in September as far as who's in our schools. And so one of the things that you've heard us talk about you alluded to the meetings with the mayor, is that you pass a budget now, but that with different kids moving in, we have legal mandates to meet. We're adding staff at times. There's nothing in here that's an additional staff member. So that's, I think.
I want to rephrase my question, and now I know how I should have said it. Is there anything else in here since you turned this over that maybe there's been other votes that have changed this? That's probably a fairer question where I was going with it.
Is the cultural specialist?
Oh.
I mean, this is not dated, but it's
Right.
not current, and I know you've had some meetings, but, so this is it, and we're good then.
Yes, well, the mayor's budget is different than this one.
I understand the 440, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And with the 440, just, I forget, it was maybe Mr. Toro asked, that's something obviously that we're working through. You know, I'm remiss to touch student-facing positions. I really am. But we may have to. One of the positions is a new ask. It's an assistant superintendent. I'll give you early information. I'm going to recommend that we take that out. So that was a $185,000 position that I think, I'm not happy about it, but I think to your question, we have to move in real time. The other question was about line items for substitutes. We've increased that. We increased it by $100,000 for daily subs. And again, we're trying to figure out if 440 is the number, we'll get there, but trying to be as student-friendly as possible.
Thank you. You and I both agree that those are the things that keep us up. We don't want to see anyone lose their job. I totally agree with you, and that's a problem. Thank you.
Sure.
Council Ferrullo?
Thank you. Hey, Dr. Crowley. Dr. Crowley, Dr. Ryan, Assistant Superintendent Young, Chairman Crowley, and Alex and Patty, who I've gone way back with over the years. Thank you for all you do to help navigate the ever-changing world of the school department that we live in. My commitment to Woburn schools started 61 years ago when I went to the first grade at the Veterans Memorial Elementary School. And as I sit here 49 years ago this upcoming Sunday, I was a proud graduate of the class of 1976. I got you guys, plain and simple. And when I say I'm sure we mean the other 9 people sitting up here. I hope this is the right place and time to say this. We look for open and honest communication. I am on your team. They are on your team. We need to get the job done. When I ask a question, I beg everybody that's listening to me, please don't tell me we don't work for you, we don't need to give you that information. I'm here to work with you guys. I want to make it work. I am committed to everything Dr. Crowley, the first year he was here, we became buddies, and we've weathered some storms together. We have a lot to accomplish in the year to come once we make it through this budget. The portable classroom issues floating around, a permanent solution to early childhood education, a capital plan that's floating around, and then the long-term solution of new schools. We got to work together, guys, plain and simple. Check the egos at the door, put it on the table, and let's solve the problems. I have the commitment of the 9 folks up here to get it done. But we need the commitment from the other side of the table. I'm not saying it's not there. Let's look forward. Let's not look back. But let's simply say, when we ask a question, I'm not checking on you. I'm not double checking. I need to educate myself because you're asking us to co-sign a check for $95,962,440. We're going to put our name on a check that we're going to hand to you and say, go. I just need to educate myself. Don't know your world. I was pretty good cop for 38 years. Do not know your world. But I'm thrilled to support you. When you say Tanner Pride, Peter Sullivan was the coach of Woburn High School football, where Tanner Pride came from. We have you guys. I just really want to establish a working relationship going forward. Let's not look backwards. Let's start tomorrow morning and say, talk about what we need to get to. So we're not talking about stuff up here. Let's find the solution. Where do we need to get to? Why do we need to get there? Open, honest communication. What do you need? And I talk to every single school committee person, not every, but I talk to many school committee people to hear their priorities. They call me, I call them. But we have you. And I just want to enhance the communication. I can talk, rest assured. You guys all know that. I can talk. I just want to talk with you guys in an open, honest communication. I mean, Superintendent Young, I went to school with her mother-in-law. I mean, that's where we go back to. I mean, it's I got you guys. We have you guys. And I just really need to get that message out there before we start going line by line. I don't know what line to ask about. I know the numbers. I have some ideas. You don't need me to nitpick and micromanage you guys. But what I need to do is have an understanding so when the people whose tax bills go up or the people that have to deal with these issues, I have an educated, intelligent answer to give them that supports you and your mission. And that's something that, I had an opportunity to spend a couple of Fridays with you visiting the schools at the Kennedy and at the Harold Wyman. That's awesome. But let's enhance that to talk more about the stuff that we're trying to accomplish. And that being said, I can't commit to saying yes to everything, but I can sure commit to listening to everything. And I'm here for you, and we believe in you. But I ask, as you brought it up, to respect the school committee, I ask that we turn it around and that we both work together to get the job done, to better serve the community and the students of the city of Woburn. That being said, I'm done.
Thank you. Council Papalato.
Thank you. So Dr. Crowley and team, thank you for everything you did. This is a great package. I sat and met with you guys a few weeks ago and got very educated on all this. What I pulled away from the table with is how complicated this is. And people have referenced that around the table. I asked a million questions in that meeting, and they were just because, again, I want to get educated on how this all works. I did think that last year this budget was, I'll call it top-heavy, and it feels like it's in the same realm of top-heaviness from what I saw last year. And the question that I have there is, has there been any additional positions added kind of at the management or administrative level beyond what was there last year, was the approved budget from last year?
Can you rephrase your question?
Yeah, have there been any additional administrative/management positions added from 25 to 26 budget?
No.
Okay.
And Mr. Papalato, we added a considerable amount of student-facing positions. We didn't add any administrative positions.
Okay, that's-
Even in the asks,
And-
even.
Yeah,
in-
and so the answer is no. The other thing that I've said, and I don't know if you were there in one of the Wednesday meetings, Mr. Dillon might have been there. Over the past, I think, 4 years, I did a look back. I think we've added close to 70 or 80 WTA positions, and the number of administrators is remained the same.
And we're down a curriculum coordinator as well. So we're down 2. So IT director
So-
and a curriculum coordinator, so we're down.
So
Quite a
we're,
bit.
so
What I did see, and I remember when there was as I asked 1,000 questions in that meeting, there was a page that showed, and it's page 81 on this list here, it showed additional administrative positions. Is the assumption that those are not going to go forward?
so it's.
The ones that I'm talking about are
It's the personnel requests? Is that,
assistant superintendent, associate principal, central registration, registrar staff.
right. So I believe that's how the 440 came about, because if you add those positions up.
Yep, I did the math,
Yeah,
I
so-
see that.
Right, so what I would tell you is that I don't know the answer to that question. I did say already that I would recommend the assistant superintendent not move forward. I spoke to Mr. Quayle this morning. The associate principal has been an ask at the high school all year. There are 4 classes at the high school, obviously freshman through senior. There's 3 APs. So the principal has been handling one of the classes by themselves, in addition to trying to be the instructional leader and the building manager and meet with teachers. And so I believe that Mr. Quayle feels the associate principal is an integral part in his success at the high school moving forward. So
It is or is not?
it is.
It is.
It is. And as far as the central registration goes, it's been called different things over the years. When I first started, I called it a PIC, a Parent Information Center, because that's what a lot of urban districts have in place. One of the things that has become abundantly clear is that the way that we have families register in the Woburn Public Schools is inefficient and can oftentimes lead to inaccuracies. And what do I mean? So if you have 3 kids, if you're enrolling at the Goodyear, the Kennedy, and then at the high school, you now need to go to 3 different places to enroll your student. And when you do that, you're doing it with the secretary who's also answering the phone, who's dealing with the nurse calling down because some medical need, et cetera, et cetera. And so what has, again, become apparent with our redistricting especially, is the need to have one place that everybody goes, and that one or one plus a very small number of people are doing data input and registering our families. What happens is we created a system during COVID where you can register online, and especially for upcoming kindergarten students, but anybody can. What happens is families will go in online and start the process, but then not finish it. And so we pay a secretary to work over the summer to track down how many kids are actually enrolled in each of our classes. And then this past summer, she was very distraught because she's killing herself to try to figure out how many kids are actually enrolled, but families don't necessarily return phone calls. People are away during the summer, not everyone's around. And so it's incumbent on us to get better at making sure that when we register people, people feel welcomed into the Woburn Public Schools, that we're doing it accurately and consistently, and students are then enrolled into the school, the grade that they belong in a time-efficient manner. So the reason why this past year, for example, a question was how many kindergartners are in elementary school, and we couldn't get an answer because the school secretaries don't work during the summer. And so we're calling principals who are on vacation. We need to have enough kindergarten teachers to open school. And so a lot of these things, you know, I'm proud of how we handle things when they move in real time, but If we want to move forward with the redistrict like we're doing, this is a position that's vital to the organization.
Okay. Chair Crowley, you mentioned there's been many
Yeah.
teacher ads. And in
Yes.
my opinion, that's the secret sauce of making the whole thing work, right? You need the right people in there.
Thank you for saying
Pressing
that.
the right
Agreed.
buttons, and that's the key to the whole thing. But thank you for everything you've done here. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Papalato.
Thank you.
Counselor Demers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi.
Hello.
So, I was just sitting here reflecting and realizing that this is my 11th school budget, both on the school committee and now on the city council. And having gone through budget debates that were very lean, and looking at the budget now, I've been able to see what has grown in terms of our needs as a district. And I was just looking through the Division of Local Services budget list for fiscal year 2025. And there are 245 cities and towns that their total operating budget is less than what we spend on Woburn Public Schools. And to that effect, it's not a criticism. It's more so, we have a lot going on. There's a lot going on in our district. We have a lot of high needs. We have a lot of challenges that we meet. But when I see those challenges happen, we overcome those challenges. And we're doing a great job in our schools and meeting those challenges. I think, some of the comments some of my colleagues have made, I appreciate where they're coming from. But when I look at that number and that example I just gave, that anecdotal, we want management in place to make sure that our staff's doing the right thing. We want to make sure that the trains are running on time. We want to make sure that we can triage if something comes up. Because I would think of it as this way, is imagine cutting out our department heads here at City Hall, or administrators of certain boards and commissions in City Hall, and then it almost would lead towards rudderlessness, to speak. And I think, when I was on the school committee, the number one thing that was constantly asked during contract negotiations, during budgets, is the teachers needed more supports. They needed more leadership. That's why we brought in the curriculum coordinators, so that they had those coaches in those classrooms to work with them. Whether they want them in there or not is another debate we can all have. But those folks are in there trying to help teachers become better at their trade so that they can better address the needs of our kids. So when I was on the school committee, I was a very strong advocate for those coordinator positions. I was going to be questioning about the additional assistant superintendent, but I also know that the responsibilities and the job description of the assistant superintendent of curriculum and student services has probably doubled since I was on the school committee with regards to the workload that those folks do. And they step up to the plate, they work extra hours, and they're getting it done without complaint. So my only worry is if we don't look at a long-term vision of giving the supports there, we do run the risk of losing some great employees because they don't feel as if they're being supported. So I just want to caution my colleagues that, because that's something in the long range, if they come back and want additional management positions next time around, maybe we'll have those further discussions. Maybe we'll go and meet with some of them and see what they do on a day-to-day basis so that we know it's not just them doing just curriculum or student services. They have a lot of things that fall under that job description. So I just wanted to advocate on that behalf, but commit to being open to something like that in the future in the budget. I'd also like to reiterate my call the past 3 legislative sessions of this body that we need quarterly meetings, a quarterly liaison meeting where we just get an update. Because what happens is when there's a process going on in this budget and, we vote on our budget here, and unless we hear, we think everything's fine, we think we're at the same number and everything, but it's a different animal when it comes to the school department. Because come October 1st, you have student move-ins. You look at the last fiscal year, we had the student move-ins of those, of the refugee migrants. That's just something that hits us in the midstream where you never see that really on the city side, where your budget could have to increase in one department by $500,000 based on a move-in. That doesn't happen on the city side. I think the only thing comparable that we've had on the city side to something like that was the PFAS issue. So I'm encouraging my colleagues to keep an open mind in this, in the sense of the budgetary matters, because, we have a salary adjustment line item in our budget, under the mayor's budget, for him to settle contracts. And to, I think President Dillon, you were questioning in regards to the changes in salaries. Those negotiations happened after the school committee passed their budget and presented it to us. So they've got to be afforded some wiggle room. But I do agree that maybe an addendum sheet could have been provided, just so that we had those more accurate numbers this time for the budget debate. My question is I have a few questions, but my first question has to do with the 403B annuity program for $100,000. Was that due to updated negotiated contracts?
I'm gonna, Alex.
Yeah, come on up, Alex.
So the short answer is no. It's just more people getting that benefit and increased management fees for our provider to give that benefit.
So that was a shift in cost, basically. It was an
Correct.
increase, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and, again, I've been there, I know what it's like to go through those tough budget rounds on the school department. But, in the sense of true transparency and good government, I like it. It's got pictures, it's got mission statements, it's got supporting statements and everything, but I don't see the names of the employees in the budget. And that was concerning, especially when I've heard a request was made that be included or provided. I know there's been an Excel sheet that's been shared with us in previous years that would have that, just so we could see, because there's a lot of supplemental income in these positions, and I think it's important to know who's receiving that longevity payment, who's receiving that additional compensation for a stipend, travel allowance, uniform allowance, and so forth. So I would just encourage, and I think it's great, because I know when I was on the school committee, it was consistent, but it was outdated, the process that we had in terms of the presentation of the budget. And I think this is great, because it also shows that it's not just numbers. We're dealing with kids, dealing with teachers, support staff, and so forth. I just think when we're trying to be more transparent, that, the employees, every other employee is in our city budget. I think when the school department presents theirs, I think it's only fair that would be in there.
Mr. Mers, may I respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
So we follow the best practices of MASBO, as you know what MASBO is. And they have basically advised districts to not put names in public documents and circle them around for various reasons. And quite frankly, I feel like it could cause like a data breach of some sort. So that's why the city has the website with everyone's information. But for our documents, we follow MASBO's advisory on that, and we do not.
All right, well,
submit names.
I'm just
That-
gonna
that's
say,
just the
I'm just
reason.
gonna say, there are also other provisions on our side. I know Chief Ferrullo can speak to this, where there's provisions that we would protect law enforcement from being on the voter rolls
They're
or
not
in the
under
public record on
MASBO,
phone books and
so-
so forth,
yeah.
but their
No,
names are still printed in that budget.
Fair enough,
So,
fair enough.
So
so
I just think it's a transparency thing, because I should know, if I look at a line item, who is that person, what is their educational qualifications, and why they're being paid that amount. Because that's how I justify supporting the budget. And I understand the rationale now. I might not agree with it, but I just wanted to state that, because transparency is huge, especially with this amount of money, to what Councilor Frullo had to say. We're all pushing for more transparency. Give me the tools to help advocate on your behalf when I have constituents asking if they get a public copy of this document. Who are these folks?
To be clear, they are available on the city website.
The
All
full
of the
list of
names.
names.
Everyone's name. Everyone.
Search.
In an electronic form of the budget.
Yeah, no, the city has a website where you can search people's salaries. It doesn't, not necessarily a school product.
Understood.
That's- Yeah.
so actually,
Just so you know, you do have to know the person's name to be able to search them on the city's
Correct.
website.
Not only that, but it's
You can
like,
search by school.
I get it if that's I get it if it's the
Right.
public looking at it. I'm talking about you and me trying to work together here.
No, that's fine, I'm just saying.
I get it.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing I just wanted to talk about, and Dr. Crowley can reiterate, when I was the chair of the school committee, you know, there were a lot of personnel things that a chair is privy to in terms of things in the live stream, so forth. And one of the things that Dr. Crowley and I worked on was finding a new legal provider, because we weren't so happy with our previous one, in sense of we were constantly waiting for responses or having them address it, because there are a lot of labor issues that are constantly going. And having one HR director, or the lack of one, and putting that on the business office, and then central office has to reach out to a consulting attorney who then might wait 3 weeks for us. You know, that's always something that irked me. I know I remember advocating and asking, why don't we have our own in-house lawyer like the city has a solicitor? Just me, this is just my musings in the sense of, these are the things that, you know, from my experience having served on the school committee, it's just a constant moving target.
May I
And
elaborate?
there's really no way to nail it down in terms of dollars and cents like you can on some other types of budgets, and especially the city side.
May I elaborate on that,
Mhm.
Mr. Chair? So we actually have two forms of legal services. One is on
Correct.
the special education
Correct.
side, right? And then the other is on the labor side.
Mhm.
So it is a considerable amount of legal work that is done. And we are
Definitely.
very much, sorry, in line with other districts in that regard.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just, there's a lot going on there. You guys are basically your own little city. It was the point I was trying to make. So, I do thank you for everything that you do, and I know you folks face tough decisions with the number that was in the mayor's budget, but I do have faith that you'll do that work, but I also hope that we can enhance communication so we can work together and solve some of the challenges that we see in the next few years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Counselor Campbell.
Can I,
Good
sorry,
eve- Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to respond. Is that okay?
Yep, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. DeMar. You said something that resonated, well, you said a few things, but one of the things you talked about was the high-needs population. And so you talked about Representative Haggerty coming here, talking about the percent of apartments and rental units. And so one of the things that I would share with you is that we have over 50% of our students are qualified as high needs. And what does that mean? They're either special education, EL, or socioeconomically disadvantaged, or a combination of all three. And so the majority of our students fall into that category. And I say that because I know that we've had these conversations about taking care of the humans, you know, the human needs. And when you mention the high needs, with the high needs comes an expense. And so 15% of our students are are EL, are multilingual now, 15%. That's up from 5% 8 years ago. So these are students who are moving in that don't speak English. 25% of our students are now on IEPs. So a quarter of our students are receiving special services. So when we see the growth in the number of special education positions, that's why. The BCBA, the Board Certified Behavior Analyst, the student behavior is changed. And so, you know, I give that context because I say to the teaching is different now than it was when you were on the school committee. And I have great respect because a teacher could have 20 students. Some don't speak English, some have IEPs, and some are advanced. And so they are doing yeoman's work in the classroom to meet these diverse needs, and we need to support them. And so I'm grateful for them. But I go back to, you know, we're still the same number of people doing the job. So my job has changed as well.
Mr. Chair, if I could just
Sorry.
have one follow-up that I think is germane is, and I don't mean to put you on the spot in terms of the school population numbers,
Sure.
but say over the last, and I know there's a document, I think I've seen it before, where you folks map it out. Have we seen a major boon in student population over the past 10 years? Or how would you characterize this? And I'm, as my former colleague on the school committee, Mr. Metters, used to say, this is a leading question to where I'm going, so I hope you picked that up.
I'll try first.
Yes.
So it went like this. Then COVID happened and it went like this. Then all of a sudden, after COVID, it went like this. And that's where we started talking about space capacity issues. Because the eviction moratorium lifted and people started moving. People moved into the schools. So I believe in 2023, we had 500 kids move into the district and like 200 move out. So we had 300 additional learners in the schools.
So if I
So
would
we're
have,
seeing this now.
right, so my only thought process is, like, if we go back 10 years and where we are right now, what is the difference? And if that's something that maybe at a later date, you folks could provide us that student population growth, I just want to see the ebb and flow like that too, because I
It's-
think a lot of the argument out there is, overdevelopment is causing space issues and all that, but I think it's part and parcel, student population growth slightly, but then also the high needs requirements in
Yes,
space.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Where I was heading.
10 years ago, if
Yes.
you polled 100 kids in the Woburn Public Schools, maybe 30 of them would be some level of high needs. Now you take 100 kids and you poll them, and you might have 7
Right.
that have some category or status of a high need, whether it be housing instability, have a disabling condition of some sort, do not speak English at home. And so the composition of learners has changed along with the amount, which is, of course, draws me back to March when we were talking about needing the classrooms in different formations, so.
Right, yeah, I just
Thank you
wanted
for
that
asking
point to
that.
be pointed out too, because, in this forum
Yeah.
especially, because, I don't want folks to think we've had like 1,000 or 1,200 kids move in over the past 10 years that have caused this overall just student population growth. There's other factors in place.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thanks.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes, hi. Couple questions. About the grounds. I'm looking at building service contracted, 700,000, grounds maintenance internal, 90,000, Parks Department, 95,000. What's the building service contracted? For 700,000?
So that's not actually contract in the sense of a contractor coming in and doing the work. It's work that's been done internal by our staff. I would say not a good majority, but one of the benefits of having this investment done last year is work that we were able to do on solar panels and some electricity systems. That's a large reason of why you see that electricity number come down in concert with load shedding and things like that. But it's basically all the work that we do at all the schools on various systems. The systems are aging, they need more updates, and I can say from last year's investment that you guys approved, we were able to actually decrease the electricity line.
Yeah, okay. And then what about the grounds maintenance internal?
That would be specific to internal maintenance that's done, various different things internally.
Like what?
How much is the line? I might be.
It is
90,000, I think.
90,000, yeah.
Yeah, in reference to this year, again, it could be anything. There's so many systems that we have in our schools. Could be any one of those things. The contracted kind of is a catch-all for everything, internal, external, all throughout. Sort of anything that doesn't fall into a specific bucket, I would say. The internal would be things that are internal and that fall into that very specific bucket, to be done somewhat at the discretion of the facilities director.
So something to do with electricity, something to do with solar panels, like you had mentioned for the building service, or?
Solar panels would be specifically the 700,000 line. Internal could be boilers, it could be any of the other internal systems.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. I just wanted an example, okay. Parks Department services, 95,000. Is that money coming to the city?
Yes.
Okay. So for mowing the lawn and things like that?
Yes.
Cutting the hedges and all of that? The copier equipment leases, 210,000. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, a lot of copies. I believe that's level funded year over year, though.
Is it, yeah,
It is a lot of money, but we can't run a school department without copiers and,
no, I don't want to cut the copiers. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, is there somebody that looks at these contracts? Because I know we have contracts as well,
Yeah,
that is
we
constantly
just did,
trying to
actually.
get them lower and lower as much as possible?
Yeah, we
Yes.
just did this year.
Yes, okay, all right. All right, good. Because sometimes you might not even think of that, you're so busy.
so we actually switched a couple years back to this new company because it was a lower cost. And so, again, it is something that we're mindful of watching.
Okay, okay, good. Curriculum salaries. I know, once again, Councilor Demers talked about this last year as well, and the importance of it. You have curriculum salaries, 164, and then curriculum support staff, 905,000. It almost seems like it should go the other way around, but what is the curriculum salaries and the curriculum support staff?
What page are you on? Sorry.
I don't have a number on my page.
Yes,
Is there a number on there?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's more,
Yeah, so-
definitely more bodies. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, so I was wondering.
Yeah, it seems like support,
So
the salary should be higher than
The
support
one
staff.
number
Yeah,
is Miss Young,
yep,
and the bigger number is her staff, including all interventionists.
there's another line for interventionists underneath
yeah,
that.
there is.
Yeah, what I'm trying to find is the line that counts the FTEs actually, because you'll be able to see how many people are included in the support staff line.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. How many are in the support staff?
It would be on the curriculum budget page. Sorry, I don't have it in
You
front of me
have-
here.
6 curriculum coordinators and 19 interventionists.
How many?
19 interventionists.
Okay,
That's page 66.
The interventionists are part-time.
okay, they're part-time. All right, and then there's an interventionist column. Okay, all right, thank you, Bob. Then there's a column for interventionists, so that's just more of them, 222?
For next year, one of the
222,000?
Yeah, one of the things that, and I could let Ms. Young come up and articulate. When we're adopting new curriculums, and I alluded to this earlier, we want to make sure that staff and students are supported in this process. And so if students need support, having people able to come and support with the transition is a priority.
Right, okay. Okay, so I was just wondering, and you're saying that the 222,000, are those newer positions for this year, did you say? No. Okay, so then actually, those should have been bundled up into the support staff, most likely.
They could have been. We have a line item specifically for interventionist that has
Yeah.
been out there, so we chose, last year we had it in as interventionist, so we chose to keep with that and separate those out.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing has changed in terms of like how we list out these positions this year. So rather than, be confusing and bundle it different ways, we chose to just kind of roll those categories over year.
Yeah, okay. Honestly, but what the teachers are going through, they're absolutely amazing. So, with the differences in learning styles in each of the classrooms, what they need to do to be able to teach the children really is incredible. So, if they need help, they need help. That's good. I just wanted to understand that. And I guess my biggest piece, and I said this the last time that I saw you, is there's two pieces. The early childhood education, which honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. And the special ed piece. being $33 million. $33 million, when your budget this year is about 96 million. 33 million. And I know we've talked about this the past 10 years since I've been on this. What can we do? And I know Dr. Ryan is doing everything she can, and it seems like she's really saving a lot of money. But I also feel like for the health of our city's budget and being able to budget what's needed on the city side and budget what's needed on the school side, how do we rectify this issue, this problem that's coming about? And I mean, it's huge. And with $33 million being spent, that says to me that we can do something else, whether that is renovating the Wyman School, which I had said. I think it was a $23 million, somebody had said possibly to renovate it, $23 million. Maybe building onto it. Do we need one building, one school area that houses all of these individuals, that then at that point you spend $33 million, it's now going towards the city and paying off whatever the cost would be to renovate a particular building. Now, I know that, I believe that, Ellen, you said that there wouldn't be enough classrooms in the Wyman School. I just feel like we can't keep going down this path, spending this kind of money without finding a solution. Now, I know you're doing everything you can, and it's Band-Aids. But can that be looked at? Is that a possibility where we look at a particular building? It sounds like it's going to be a very large building because they need a lot of rooms, but still, besides that, it's here, we have to deal with it. Is that something to look at down the road? And I would love the Mayor Concanon to really look into this, because $33 million, if it's $33 million this year, it's going to go up next year. So if this is money that we can use to either renovate buildings so that we can put these students in there and they can have what they need for the teachers and all of that, I think that's the smart way to go. In Waltham, I don't know if people know this, but in Waltham, they don't sell a building. They never sell a building. Never, never, never. Never do they sell a building. They renovate. They renovate a building. They never get rid of it. We should not be selling our buildings. We need to be renovating them because we need the help. So I guess my question is, I know you're so busy, especially doing the budgets, but has this been discussed? And is there anything that you could see down in the future doing something like this where all the monies then would go towards the facility that's being renovated or built or whatever it might be, so that no longer is $33 million being taken out of the budget for the city?
You mentioned multiple things, but I think that the committee would be open to any collaboration on using an existing building in the city. Mm-hmm. I think the Wyman proposes some specific downsides to be used for an ECP. One, that it's 3 floors, doesn't have elevators, needs renovation, the whole thing. I won't get too much into it, but we certainly are open to the idea. Though the response we have in the mandate that we want is to always try to build in-district programming, because the expense is when children are placed in out-of-district placements. That's when we are going to see the dollar signs go up. So we always try to develop in-district programming so that we can have our learners in our own community and be taught with their peers that they're growing up with in their own schools. That is the absolute mandate in how to save dollars on special education, because it's legally mandated, it's a least restrictive environment, and it gives a sense of community for learners that may have learning challenges. But other than that, it is just it's something that cities really need to brace themselves for, rising special education costs. Yeah. And Dr. Ryan did mention that there could be some circuit breaker relief available in transportation. That's a very good sign, things like that. But other than that, I think it's important to just say, we might just need to brace ourselves for the increased costs. And I don't want to be pessimistic about it, but there's really I don't think there's a lot of solutions out there that people are thinking about. But I do think that the early childhood program could be revenue producing if we had a facility that was on its own that we could run full day. I do think that that would be a very important revenue piece for the city.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll let that linger out there.
Yeah, yeah, Matt.
And just to clarify a little bit, the $33 million for special education is everybody in the Woburn Public Schools. That's not just the ECP students. So when you're alluding to the $33 million and all in one place, we have students at all 10 schools, plus out of district. And so I think I understand what you're saying, like if there's a way to invest to make sure that we can try to absorb some of these costs moving forward. I'm on board, I get it. And I think that Ms. Crowley's statement relative to collaboration and relative to the wine, if there's a building, let's talk. Because to Mr. Demers' point earlier, we have classrooms that were typical traditional classrooms now dedicated to special education students or ML students. So we have a space issue. Thank you.
Because of the same issue that I'm talking about, the redistricting because of preschool. That's something, right? I mean, if there was a building, a facility where you could house all the children and teach them there, redistricting might not have to be possible, correct? Children who lived in those areas, maybe a little bit, but potentially all those children in the areas of a particular school, say Goodyear, Reeves, Alta Vista, they could end up staying in those schools. Is that correct?
That is correct. So if the ECP had a separate space, then
Yes.
it would free up substantial amount of space at the Reeves and to some extent the Shamrock.
Yeah.
And then more children in the geographical area of the Shamrock and the Reeves would be able to attend the Reeves.
Which I would think would be absolutely wonderful. So once again, I know it's not going to happen this year, but I would absolutely love to discuss this more and see what we can do with helping with this issue. And I think that is, let me see. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so
Chair
much.
Viola, make a motion for 5-minute recess.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Take a 5-minute recess.
Order of business?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Counselor DeMambro, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Crowley, I want to thank you. Ellen, I also want to thank the assistant superintendents, Ryan and Young. I guess, for me, over this budget, series of talks for this budget 2026, it definitely helped me to be in those meetings in Mayor Concannon's office, to hear from Assistant Superintendent Ryan and Young what is going on in an administrative level. I mean, we always talk about, you know, the schools and the teachers and that. There's also the administrative aspect that is also a big portion of this. And I applaud all your efforts. I know it's stressful, beyond probably what I can even comprehend. But I appreciate everybody's work. And it's all for one, I believe, goal. I think that's why everybody's in this room. We all care. We care about the kids, we care about the education, we care about the education we provide for the kids. Hopefully the kids are absorbing it and they're taking advantage of it. And hopefully the parents realize what it takes to run, you know, a school department system. I mean, this is a budget all within itself. And I guess the theme of tonight from all the counselors that have spoken is communication, transparency, and accountability. We're not here to fight. We're not here to play a tug of war. You know, it's for one common purpose, and to get the kids the best education they possibly can get, especially during these times. It's a global market. It's important that these kids get the best education, and I hope they realize that. And I hope that's being taught from pre-K up. Education's key. It's always been said, and I think the way the world is going, today it matters more than ever. Last year I was a big advocate for the WUStat, and I will continue to advocate for that. Transparency is key. These are big numbers. $96 million isn't a drop in the bucket. $5 million increases aren't a drop in the bucket. We do have to watch our, you know, residents. They elected us, they put us here to oversee this type of stuff. If we're complacent, we'll be voted out. None of us want that, because we care about our community, we care about our city, and we want the best. So we all take a vested interest, bird dog, in the numbers. I know Mayor Concannon and his staff and his departments, everybody, the numbers are critical, they're crucial, they're paramount. And that's what we're here tonight, and that's what we've all been tangling with, and we do every year. I appreciate everyone's efforts in doing so. I would like to say, though, that, you know, transparency, we need to do a better job. We got to break the numbers down. I don't just want to see the end of the night, the tab of the restaurant, which is one big fat number. I want to see all the itemizations on what was ordered, what was spent, who did what, where it went. Because our residents, our constituents are asking for that information. I don't think they necessarily realize the complexity of the school department and school administration. I know, I'll speak on my, behalf. I didn't. And the more I've spent time with Ellen and the school committee and the assistant superintendents and Dr. Crowley and in these meetings, and believe it or not, even though I'm not there, I am watching the school committee meetings and I'm listening. I often think I pay attention more if I'm sitting at home, believe it or not. It's almost a 15-credited college course learning how the school department works and all the intricacies and all of the departments and abbreviations and so on and so forth. And what the kids are going through and the challenges that we have to provide for, legally, but also, at heart. We all want the best for the kids, regardless of age, regardless of their, situation. But again, these budgets are getting more and more and more unsustainable. And we don't know where the monies are coming from. One of my colleagues says we really need to address how we're going to take and manage this in the future, and I believe that's key. Just because this is the way we've always done it doesn't necessarily mean this is the trajectory we have to keep going in, because I don't think it's going to work. And I think we're coming to a shortfall real soon, I think within the next few years. I'm not being doom and gloom here. This is the reality. You're at $100 million practically by next year. We'll be tangling with this again. And on the city side, we're at another $100 million. You know, you're looking at over a $200 million budget. My colleague Joe said, you know, when he was in, the school budget was minimal compared to what we're seeing now when he was on the school committee. Now it's quite excessive. We have to find ways on how to offset the costs of these. We can't just keep relying on our residents to shelf the tab on all this stuff. We have to find ways. We got to start thinking outside the box. I'm a big advocate for that. We can't keep saying, well, just raise the taxes. They're not taxed enough. We can't keep doing that. We're going to tax our people right out of the city, and we're going to have a bigger problem than we already have in front of us now. So I appreciate everyone's efforts. I mean, everything is pretty much, you know, been talked about and you know, vetted, and there's probably more questions, and there's probably going to be some motions made on even more information and transparency and where the numbers are and how we get there. Again, if there are adjustments to, you know, the budget book that you put out, give us an addendum, give us something, so that we're not sitting here asking questions for a half hour, an hour, saying, well, where's this 40,000, or where's this fluctuation in number, and how did it increase by 50% or 40% or whatever. We need to know, and it's not because it's us against them or you against us and vice versa. It's because we're going to be questioned. How did you pass that without vetting it or asking the question where? Don't just take what they say. No, we got to have the receipts to go along with it. And I hope everyone understands that, and I think everyone does. My only questions, really, I noticed that there was, believe it or not, I'm probably the only one that's going to ask this question. I noticed there was a decrease in the Alta Vista budget and in the Goodyear Elementary School budget. Why were those decreased? By Alta Vista was 4.25 and the Goodyear was 6.58. Are they doing exceptional math over there, or what was the reasoning behind that?
I might defer to Alex, but I think what one of the... Oh,
Come on up. Yeah,
Come
please
on up. Come on down.
Really quick, though. Hi, good evening. The Alta Vista went down because we're going down in classroom teachers. So based off of that, we reallocated staff. And the Goodyear has 4 retirements this school year, which is pretty significant, as well as also staff movement. So it's allocation. So they went somewhere else.
They went somewhere else. They weren't
Yeah.
cuts made.
No, they went somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question, Dr. Crowley, is the decrease in 4% on the facilities number. You know, our buildings, especially the schools, they take a beating. They're used. They're used and abused. Even though they're well-maintained with, you know, the guys you get, you know, and gals maintaining them, you know, maintaining these buildings is also a key, so that we're not taking and going to the MSBA looking for hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild schools. Maintaining them, I think, is also a key. So when I see line items, you know, especially in facilities, and I've dealt with this in my prior life, that, you know, facilities is an important factor and key in any type of building, regardless if it's city side or school side. So what would be the decrease of the 4% in the facilities? Alex?
you have the specifics?
So 2 specific items. One is the electricity, and on the personnel side, we had a retirement in November of 2024. That person was backfilled with a lower salary, so that's one of the biggest drivers there.
Okay, fair enough. So, and I mean, closing, and I know everyone wants to wrap it up. It's been a long day and night. Again, the more transparency we can get, the better off we're going to be. I encourage more of the WooStat and the communication back and forth on the city, between the schools, as well as, I think, to one of my colleagues that said, you know, maybe if you guys can come in quarterly and just give us an update on who's who, what's what, and show us an overall, just glance at what's going on and how it's going. I'd appreciate that. And again, we have to find, I beg Alex and Charlie and anybody, you know, Kevin and you know, Planning Board Director Cashel, to find other ways, means, and avenues so we can find the money. We need to find more money. We can't just keep going after our residents and increasing their taxes on stuff like this. So I appreciate everyone's efforts. I thank you. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Mercer Barone.
Thank you, and thank you for everything tonight, all the information. As usual, you guys did an amazing job. I just want to make a quick comment about the conversation we had earlier about special education. Special education includes things like dyslexia and reading, other kinds of educational support that kids need outside of some of those much bigger things that you talked about, where a child who would need a trach and needs a nurse. That number, when you think about what's being provided, to me is not a big number. And the idea, while it's important for us to talk about all ideas, the idea that we separate children who have learning disabilities from the regular population really disturbs me. As someone who had a child who's dyslexic, back in the day, right? Kids who are dyslexic, oh, they're just dumb. They count them out. They'll never learn how to read. I'm sorry. I had to say that. There's so many parents out there that are struggling with not just that, but all those other learning disabilities. I just would hate to see that we even would consider something like that. I know technically we can't. The law says we can't. There's probably a good reason for that. So I thank you for letting me express that. And then I just would like to see, Ellen, I mentioned this to you on the break, I think it's really important that the council get a copy of the budget the way it has been previously presented to us with all of the names. Is that a big, heavy lift? I would think it's an press an Excel button. I was going to make it in the form of a motion, but I don't think I need to do that. I'm sure you can provide it for us before we meet again.
So one of the things that, and Ellen answered this previously, one of the things that happens, the quick answer is we could provide that. The issue is it's not going to be accurate, because, and to the point of accuracy. Like, so for example, tomorrow we're interviewing for a 5th grade position at the Malcolm White. If someone from the Reeves takes the position and moves from the Reeves to the Malcolm White, that creates a vacancy at the Reeves. If someone from the Alta Vista wants to take the position at the Reeves, that creates a position at the Alta Vista.
Okay.
And so every time that there would be an internal move, that, like, when you're looking at the list of names, those names wouldn't be reflected. To the same question earlier, why is the Linscott nurse higher than it previously was? And so
right.
like, for the operational side of things, that's, again, it's recommended best practice. I'm happy to give you the names when we get the budget.
Okay. Having said that,
Yeah.
I still would like to see the names. I appreciate the fact that you've told us that they probably would change, but you led me into my next ask. I'd like to see a list of positions that will be adjusted once the school year starts. You must know, to some extent, provide us with what you do know. Fair enough? And number 2, how many positions still haven't been filled from last year's asks? And how many positions are you asking for this year that won't be filled by July 1st? So those questions, if you could provide us answers to those questions before we meet. I don't think we asked anything that's difficult to answer.
So, in the spirit of transparency, during the break, I was reminded that I have 3 administrative contracts that are not yet settled. So those will be adjusted from this number. So that, just again, that the number's 3 there. 2 principals and an administrator at the high school.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a wise guy here. If you just provide us the list of what you know, then before we meet again about those questions I asked, the clerk can send them to you if some of it wasn't clear. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Councilor Mercer,
Okay.
just for clarification, do you mean prior to the public hearing?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And if possible, not the night before.
Sure.
I'd be happy with 3 days before.
Councilor Bruin, the school committee's meeting tomorrow night, so we can consider those requests or whatever.
Okay. I didn't make them in the form of a motion, so if you're considering them just requests,
I don't know what else to consider them.
okay.
Questions that the council would like answered for the public hearing that it's going to have.
Yes,
And
that
yes.
information we want.
And on behalf of the committee, we'll do everything we can to answer those questions for you.
Okay.
That good? You can make a motion, I'm just. it's up to
Either
you.
way, we want the information, Ellen, you know what I'm getting at here, right? So there
Yeah,
won't
of
be,
course.
okay, perfect,
Yes.
thank you.
I also wanted to address something about the language-based learning disabilities. So in 2016, there was a robust overhaul of dyslexia screening. And so now there's a lot of structures in place to really early identify learners that may have language-based learning disabilities. And that really ties into the literacy program that we're doing as well. So we can kind of catch that, the phonological issues way in the beginning. So dyslexias and language-based learning disabilities come a long way in terms of.
Through the chair, I was very lucky.
Yeah,
It was identified very, very early, but for different reasons.
yes.
Not because, it was for much different reasons. They wouldn't even test.
Those
Yes,
students hold a
back
place in
then.
my
Back-
heart.
This
as
is a
well.
long time ago, right? But
Yeah,
I
right.
remember in 2016 when that happened, and I was so thrilled to hear that.
Right.
So thank you for sharing, and thank you for everything that you guys do. It is not easy, the work that you do, but it's so important, and we are grateful for it every single day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
President Dillon.
Thank you. Just quick, to the chair, to Councilor Demers, thank you for explaining that you agree with me. There should be an addendum in that question that I asked. Just when I see 2 compelling numbers that are different from what is in front of me, I just had to ask the question, but.
Definitely.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Demers.
Just as the Ward 4 counselor, I felt the need to respond about the Wyman School, as it's a hot button issue
The castle.
within my ward. Yes, it is. It is. It is. So historically, when the Harold Wyman was petitioned for, the school department indicated in an MSBA affidavit that we no longer planned on using the facility for an educational purpose. My concern is when we start bandying about discussions and trying to rehash that as an educational institution, we would open ourselves up to either legal challenge or not quite a welcoming audience at the MSBA for future schools, and I think that that would be reckless when we have one more elementary school that deserves to be a combined elementary school in North Woburn. I think those kids have waited long enough for their equity with regards to school facilities.
Thank you, Councilor Demers, thank
You're
you.
welcome. And then, another thing with the Wyman School, it's, those neighbors spent decades living in that neighborhood with an elementary school there for drop-offs, pickups, and they were told it wouldn't be used for an educational purpose again. So I think that that's a commitment that the city owes those neighbors. With the Danisco study, and I could be off by this, but I think it's closer to 30 to 35 million, even if we were renovating it, to get it up to full ADA compliance and educational compliance requirements. And even that, some of the school committee members I spoke with said that the current layout of it would probably be too small for a full early childhood educational center based on the needs that the city has. So I just wanted to get that out as the counselor for that ward. And then Counselor Campbell, to your point, I did a little quick look up with Waltham. So their tax rate is about $1.80 higher per thousand than Woburn. So that could explain why they're not selling any of their buildings or having to buy any new buildings or able to renovate their old buildings, because they do have almost a 50% higher tax base than we do in terms of population, and their tax rate's considerably higher. So, I mean, with that, I understand, saving buildings and doing what we can to renovate, but there's also the financial commitment of the taxpayers that would be required to make it happen. And I don't find that appetite out there right now when I talk to my constituents. So I just wanted to state that for the record, just so that my constituents knew where I stand on that facility as a possible future education use. Thank you.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes. I disagree with you, but that's okay. I still feel, why do we get rid of our buildings? If we don't have to. I still believe we should renovate. In the end, we seem to, it's building new buildings for schools, and the amount that it costs to renovate them, not renovate them, keep them up, and then we're told after 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, they need to be destroyed and another building go in or anything like that, to me is ridiculous. So I rather see buildings renovated. But I did want to clarify that when I was speaking before about the special education and the $33 million budget, I was talking about the preschool as having a facility for preschools, because of the program, there's a lot of redistricting that's going to happen because of that program. And if we can change that in the future, then I think the city is better off, and I believe the children are better off if the majority can stay in a neighborhood that they know, or even if they can walk to school. But I wanted to clarify that. I was talking about children for the preschool program, where you have to have 50% regular learners, correct? Or something like that type of amount? Yeah, thank you.
You need 20 classrooms, essentially.
Yeah, okay, 20. Yeah, and then I just have one question. This doesn't have to do with the budget, but I know other schools are looking into getting rid of the iPhones during the day, or finding a place, locking them up during the day. Is that something that you guys have looked into, and do you think it will be beneficial?
Yeah. Yes, we actually started a robust policy making discussion on it. Colleen Cormier is behind me. She's the chair of the policy subcommittee, set up a survey for students, and really is still looking at the data to determine whether or not we are going to do a cell phone ban, or what is best for the students in the Woburn Public Schools at this point. Due to the change in leadership at the high school, it became a secondary priority, to be quite honest, but it is still up for discussion.
Yeah.
I believe now that there are places for students to put phones so they're not being distracted in the classroom. But it becomes a larger debate about who's in charge of enforcing cell phone policy, and does that fall on the classroom teacher or fall on administration, and what are the repercussions of having a cell phone, and what about students that need their cell phone for various reasons. So all of these complex policy-making items are still being discussed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in my view, I think it would be beneficial, but
Yeah, okay.
That's to be seen. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you you wanted to comment on what I said?
Yeah, just a couple different things. So to Ms. Crowley's point relative to the cell phone, I won't but they have phone caddies on the back of doors at the high school. So students often will put their phones on the back of a classroom door, so they're not disrupted during class. That's current practice. So I also believe that there's legislation pending at the state level, so that would be helpful if the Commonwealth were to take a stance and not leave it up to the cities and towns, because that's really what's happening now. I can tell you that different districts have had mixed success with the banning of cell phones and technology. So it's I mean, what do I mean, I think it's distracting, right? I mean, that's the nature of it, but
Yes.
being thoughtful about what we do will matter. So I just want to answer that. The other thing I just wanted to answer is the redistricting isn't only because of the ECP. I just want to be clear, like, we have pockets of the city that are more crowded than not. And so at the Harold Wyman, for example, brand new school, you build based on what you think the capacity, the current capacity, not on what not what your projection is. And so as a result of the new Harold Wyman and the building around it, they're very full, right? And so they're not able to use their specialist rooms. The principal runs 6 lunches a day. She calls it the all-day buffet. And so it's not just an ECP problem. It's where kids are, and because the schools, we can't move the schools. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other council have comments or questions? Well, as the chair of the finance, I get the opportunity to go last, whether it's positive or negative, but I'm sensing the common theme tonight from the city council was accountability, transparency, and collaboration, which I think we've come a long way since last year, but there's still work that needs to be done to get us over the threshold. I do agree that the budget is exorbitant again, but we do see that the needs of the students are there. Couple questions that I do have. On page 65, it lists under Human Resources Budget, the administrative assistant, so it's one full-time position with the 52.22% change and increase for this year. Can you explain that?
Sure.
We had a change in personnel there. The person that was there ended up being the payroll generalist / HR position from last year. We had a transfer in from, I believe, the high school that within that unit, they transfer with their salary. So that's the reason for that increase, just a transfer in personnel.
So a new administrative assistant came in with a salary of $82,000?
She'd been at the high school for a long time, yeah. There's longevity in there as well, so, yeah.
All right, and then
It's not a new one. It's someone that's been within the district for a number of years, transferring from there to the HR department.
Okay. And then on page 77, under special ed salaries, the coordinators, there's 7.40 full-time employees for a percent change of 91.77. So it went from 493,558 last year to 946,487. So that's a considerable increase over 1 year. Can you explain that?
We will.
Yeah, Maureen, if you
Yeah,
can
there we
come up.
You're referring to student services
Right here.
coordinators, correct?
It's under the,
Special ed.
it says
Coordinators.
special ed budget salaries. It says coordinators, 7.40.
Yes. So you have someone that previously had been in a different position that came into it, was already in the district, and with that came a salary. And you also had a salary that was mandated and was covered initially in a grant and rolled into the budget.
All right, so that accounted for the 91% increase.
Yes.
And then also the administrative staff there. So there's 2 administrative staff under special ed. Last year was $181,006. This year is $226,100.
So there was a position that had been unfilled that was a contractual position in the unit where somebody had left and somebody else came in, is what that was. We had someone that was in a different spot. Again, it's part of sort of the movements. When people come, their salary comes with them, and that's what that is.
Okay, thank you. And then just to follow up, as we were talking about ECP, it was talked about tonight. I know that you've talked about modulars still, looking at that. I'd ask you to look at the high school as well. Utilize some space there to maybe, I would prefer to spend money to use the high school, use portion of that, make it just like how Burlington has, the doors that lock so nobody can get in there, and utilize a space like that. I'd rather put money into a hard structure like that than I would into modulars.
I can respond, actually. It's a great idea. So again, we're open-minded. The space at the high school is also very limited, and so what would have to happen is teachers would have to lose their rooms. So they would no longer have one room for one teacher, they would have to kind of roam, and that didn't seem appetizing to introduce to the teacher staff at the high school. So we could free up the space. It would just, it's one of those things that solving one problem might create another. And then, of course, retrofitting it for an ECP would be difficult. But I will certainly keep that, the committee will certainly keep it in mind. It was definitely an option we had talked about earlier. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you for the rest of the administrative team and the school committee that came out tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned at 9:09.